It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley are here. Microsoft finally confirms Windows 10 21H1 just in the nick of time, since we're probably going to get it soon. Edge now has a kids mode, and Mary Jo explains the pros and cons of the rumor Microsoft is about to buy Pinterest. Plus, we'll get Paul to create his first mood board. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 712. Recorded Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Paul's Mood Board. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Gabby Insurance. You're probably overpaying on car and home insurance. See how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free, and there's no obligation. Go to gabby.com/windows. And by Udacity. Build your tech skills through industry-leading programs created and recognized by top companies worldwide. Get a nano degree from Udacity in as little as 12 weeks. Visit udacity.com/twit and use a coupon code TWIT at checkout to get 50% off through May 30th, 2021. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft with our dynamic duo, Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com, or ZDNet blog. She's on your right. Paul Thurrott in the red trunks on your left. He's from Thurrott.com, and his book, The Windows 10 Field Guide, is over there at leanpub.com.
I prefer to think of myself as being in the center, Leo, but that's fine.
You actually are in the center. You want me to pan you in the middle? I'll do that. I'll put you in the center. Are you going to do your next book at LeanPub? Are you going to keep doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it.
Good.
I talked to Raphael about that, and it's just like what would be, just supporting like Amazon Kindle specifically. It's actually really difficult.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
and you still get more of the revenue than you would if you published it with a...
Yeah. It is, LeanPub works everywhere, including on the Kindle. The problem is my book is so big that, well, I get a lot of emails from people who are like, hey, how do you get this on the Kindle? It doesn't get on the Kindle. And it's like, one of the reasons we're going with LeanPub is they have a support department that explains exactly how to... Yeah. And by the way, the example they use is our book because it's so big.
How many megabytes? Do you know?
I think it's like 150.
Yeah, because Kindles aren't notorious for having a huge amount of memory. You don't normally need that, but you have, I think,
170.
Wow.
Gigabyte.
Is it
megabytes.
Megabyte. Is it the illustrations? It must be. The
yes. Yeah. I padded with screenshots. Yeah.
It's padded.
No, I don't remember the count. I get a count when I publish. It's something like 88,000 words or something.
Oh my God, Paul!
Something like that.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
You know that Valentine's Day.
My book is a great Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's romantic. Everybody loves. No, yeah. Valentine's Day was the anniversary of Delphi's release by Borland.
Right.
Oh, really?
And I'm trying to
Love
think.
letter.
I think it was more than 16. 1995. So that's 26 years ago. Holy cow.
Well, that makes sense. The first version of Delphi was for Windows 3.1, even though I think 95 might have been out or coming out or something. It was originally 32-bit for at least the first version or two.
Yeah. Because it was really Turbo Pascal initially, right?
Well, yeah, language was upgraded to Object Pascal,
Yeah.
And then the object model was kind of similar to what Borland had done earlier with what I don't remember the name of their C++ product. It might have just been Borland C++.
They had Turbo C. I don't know if...
Yeah, but when they moved to...
See, there wasn't
Windows
Turbo
happened,
anymore. C++ Builder. Is that right?
Yeah, and they created some kind of an object model, which I think they eventually made consistent or fairly consistent.
Right. They did then Rad Studio, right?
I don't remember Rad Studio, but
it was like
Rad Studio might have been the name of the environment. Maybe that.
It was like the
like the GUI.
Yeah, and actually, it still comes out. It's still out.
So when was the first version of the Bible?
Was Well, it was only one version, so we did it for Delphi 3. So whatever.
Did you do that for King James, or was that later?
Super Bible. No, it was for not John Waite.
John Wayne.
No, John. Who was the guy from Waite Group? Was it John Waite?
Mitchell Waite.
Mitchell Waite.
It was a Waite Group book. Oh, I know Mitchell very well. He doesn't do publishing anymore. He's a birder now. He did all those.
Oh my God, he's got to be 80 now or something.
No.
There?
He's not that old. He's in his 70s,
really?
maybe. Oh. You know, as I get older, 70s isn't that old.
No.
Oh, by the way, that's absolutely true.
That's nothing. That's nothing. He's a kid.
I got to say, with this Waite Group, for whatever it's worth, like one of my great early experiences was actually the guy I co-wrote the book with taught a C++ class, and he used the Waite Group C++ book, which I don't think it was called Super Bible or anything. It's just a guide to object-oriented programming in C++. You could look it up, but it was a Waite Group press book, and I was so impressed that it was a trade book, and it was an awesome book, and it was really formative for me, to learn object-oriented programming with that book.
Oh my God, C++. Oh my God. No wonder you like Delphi.
Oh yeah, my God. Well, and plus we had experience with Visual Basic, so the two extremes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, can we have something that is like the good part of RAD from VB, but also the good part of OOP, which we didn't get in C++.
Maybe my mistake, because I never read the Waite Group C++ book. I tried to read Bjorn Stustrup's C++ book.
It's a terrible book. It's like the Kernighan and Ritchie C book. It's like, yeah, I guess if you're an academic, this might be interesting.
the Kernighan and Ritchie book.
Well, it was also like half an inch thick, right? Yeah. It's like, a quarter of an inch.
Stustrup's book, yeah. And really, the person who wrote the language probably shouldn't write the book just because,
Well, he's got to be English as a second language for one thing. And so it's like this highly technical, not
very
quite.
technical, yeah.
Yeah. That was a tough one.
If you wrote the language, you never had to learn the language. The last person to write a book was a person who never had to learn the language, right?
That's right.
All right, enough memory lane. I just thought I'd mention that. I saw that on Valentine's Day, and of course, having nothing better to do, I thought of you.
Thank you, Lee. I will be your Valentine. I know that's what you're
Good thing I'm wearing a red shirt.
You guys just made me look up. You just made me look up Bjorn Strustrup.
Yes. And what did
he
you
used to work at Microsoft, obviously, but now he works at Morgan Stanley.
He made a little money, I guess, on the or maybe he's a quant.
And he's a visiting professor at Columbia and managing director at Morgan Stanley in New York. I'm like, wow. Really?
Managing director.
I know. I'm like, what?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really?
He had to make some money somehow. He didn't do it from licensing C++.
Works at Morgan.
He's 70 years old.
Yeah. About Mitchell Waite's
I've listened to him speak. Yeah. That's a tough haul too.
He's Danish.
Yeah, he's Danish. Yeah, which means
I thought he was Swedish. That's interesting.
He speaks English better probably than you and me, but
he certainly designs languages better.
Mitch is 75, by the way.
Oh yes, okay.
Yeah, lives just down the road.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, right.
He's actually from the area. He studied nuclear physics at Sonoma State, our little local university here. Actually, pretty good university. Anyway, that's not why we gathered together. We gathered together.
We went down a rabbit hole there.
It could be.
We gathered together to discuss Windows 10.
Oh yeah, that thing.
This is
you're bored with it.
My more recent work.
Oh, that. Yes.
I'm far less interested. But yeah.
Let's talk about Delphi again.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually momentous because they've announced there is 21H1 exists.
Right.
They kind of, I don't think they intended it to be an announcement, but
but
somebody
it's still
works
important.
Yeah, agree. So it's kind of an obscure blog, Windows Hardware Compatibility Program blog.
I disagree. I subscribe to that. It's a wonderful blog.
Of course you do. Look, you wrote the Delphi Super Bible. Okay, here we go. They started talking about, hey, so when 21H1 comes out, you're not going to have to change any of your drivers. All the signatures that are there will already be fine because it's not a big update.
Good.
And I'm like, double win. They confirmed that it exists officially, and confirmed that it's a small update officially.
Now, for those just joining us, why is it that we're like surprised to hear this? I mean, isn't this the year 21? Are we not in the first half of 21? Shouldn't the next version of Windows imminent in the next month or two be 21H1?
So I'm going to take some responsibility for this problem.
Wow.
Because last year...
Mary Jo's email address is MJF.
No, here's what. Last year I found, well, I won't say I found it. I happened upon an engineering schedule for Windows, and there was no 21H1 on it. So I wrote about that, and I said, hey, there's no mention at all of a 21H1. So I wonder, is there even going to be one? So I was kind of the one who kicked off the speculation there might not be one. And then Zach Bowden over at Windows Central said, "No, there is." Sorry.
When was this?
Last fall.
Sometime last fall. Yeah.
But we haven't been getting insider releases of it or anything, have we?
There has not been an insider release yet for it.
Yeah. So we go over this from time to time, but just a quick recap. Generally speaking, in the past, a channel or back in the day, a ring of the insider program always targeted some version of Windows. And now. That's not the case on a number of levels, and the furthest out one, Dev, doesn't target any version of Windows, so those features can appear anytime or not at all, and it's some use for that for sure. But the beta channel, which normally would be right now targeting 21H1, is still on 20H2. And that's interesting in its own right, because right now they're testing updates to 20H2 before they go to the public, which, by the way, is also of use for sure. But that's what release preview would typically be for. The thing that's weird now is that double whammy. One, we've got this dev channel that's not targeting anything. That happened earlier last year. And now we've got a beta channel, which should have switched over to 21H1 as of last October, I think, right? Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, I mean, right? I mean,
that's
the switchover.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, once a version ships, they shift it over.
Yeah.
Right? 20H2 was finalized probably in August or something, but it shipped in October, November, whatever time frame.
That's right. Yeah.
So, here we are in February, and this version, first half, I mean, they've changed. It's not always April or March or April or whatever time frame, but it is definitely the first half of this year. So we're 2 months in, and here we are. We're still doing the same thing we were doing last August.
To be made from the fact that this is a minor cumulative update, and so was 20H2.
Well, so were the last two.
And so was 2004. So this is the
technically the last three. I mean, 1909 was also. In fact, 1909 was the first of these types of updates, remember?
So 2004 is not, right? That's the exception. Even though it didn't have a lot of features, it wasn't technically an enablement package thing, right?
It wasn't a cumulative update. That's true.
Right.
But
so is that going to be the way it is that, well, no, that doesn't make any sense because Spring would normally.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
I was going to say, there's no way to say
TikTok.
This is the new normal.
Yeah.
There's no normal with Windows.
We don't know.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the theory now is that the second release this year, 21H2, will be the big release, and we know that Sun Valley and the UI stuff is coming, and that's fine. Yeah. And of course, people are like, well, like you just said, does that mean next year the first release will be minor and the second one will be big again? And there's no way. I mean, they literally have never discussed 20H1. I mean, they mentioned it finally in this blog post, but they've never. No one official in the Insider Group or Windows proper has ever come out and said, here's what we're doing.
I think
so. There's speculation on Twitter today. I think Zach Bowden again is the one doing this. But
today there's speculation
he said it might be
Twitter?
Today.
What?
No. Okay, sorry. I have a misplaced modifier there.
Right.
About
Today's
this, you mean?
Speculation on Twitter about this is that 21H1 info could be out today potentially, and that would mean Microsoft would have to announce it goes to release to beta today. But so far, there's been no build announced as of this time, 2:30 Eastern. So we don't know if that's even going to happen.
If we think back to the giddy early days of the pandemic when we thought we were going to be stuck inside for 2 weeks and everything was going to be great.
Exactly.
Remember those days? Microsoft announced that Panos Panay was taking over for Windows, right? And then Panos Panay announced that someone new was taking over for the Insider Group. I don't even remember this person's name because they've never really appeared publicly ever. And I apologize for that. But anyway, I was hoping we would see some directional changes, some strategy shift, some better communication, which is so desperately needed in the Insider Group. And honestly, it's been one big fat silence about everything. So
I think it would be really nice maybe at build, at least, if not before, for them to just say, okay, guys, we know we've had like some moving goalposts with the Insider program. Here's how we're thinking about it now, and here's how we're thinking about builds now. That would be amazing, right? And I think you're starting to see frustration among the insiders bubble up a bit. Like on that post I talked about on that blog, the first comment is like, hey, guys, why don't you tell insiders what's going on, right? And it's like, there's a little trouble in paradise here, right? So,
well, by the way, I mean, so the two sides to the Insider program is that there have been periods of discontent all along, right? You can go back to Joe Belfiore standing on stage at a Ignite or a Build, I don't remember, and talking about the football on fire going through the soccer net and the soccer ball going on fire and the dinosaur chasing the kid and all these sets and things that were never going to happen, and all the A/B testing nonsense, which everyone hates because I specifically signed up for this version of the Insider program to test these features, and now you're telling me I might or might not get them. I mean, there's been a lot of nonsense. I don't mind them shifting the strategy, the schedule, the whatever. I don't mind them changing from channels or from rings to channels. Who cares what they're called?
Wait, don't you hate change? I heard you say that earlier.
I know. Well, there's a bigger sin than change, and that sin is poor or no communication. Right. And
because then we're all guessing, right? We're all guessing. We're all speculating.
We shouldn't be on here every week speculating about what they're doing. There should be clarity out there, and it's not just because we're curious individuals and we live in this world or whatever. No, there are businesses that rely on this kind of clarity to understand what's going on with Windows. They have a very specific, and by the way, this is another thing that's evolved, schedule for supporting Windows versions for commercial customers. Where one version is only supported for a very short period of time, and then there's an 18-month version that comes out typically later in the year that's supported for a longer period of time. And,
I know. And so
is that changing?
Stop right there, because that's a key point, right? Like, so when they had the smaller update be the fall update, that was the one that had 30 months of support for commercial customers, right?
Oh, 30 months.
So they love that, right? Because they were like, oh, good. So it's been actually in testing since they released it in the spring. Consumers and others deployed it, so it gave it even more testing. Then they just did basically a cumulative update to it, and now we're getting it, and now we feel safe with it. So now what's going to happen is a small cumulative update in the spring, and then the release that comes out in the fall, if they continue to support that for 30 months, is going to be this brand new, bigger release that hasn't had as much testing, right? And so if you're an IT person, you're wondering about that, right? You're like, should I deploy that one?
So we should, since we can only speculate, let me ask you in a speculative sense what your feeling is about 20H1 and whether it being a major update amounts to it just being a UI overhaul. In other words, the essential...
You mean 21H2, right?
21H2. In other words, so we're going to have curved corners and everything, and maybe we saw something the other day where maybe the start menu is going to float off the bottom instead of being attached to it. But fundamentally speaking, everything is where it was. So there's no real relearning. It's prettier, right? Yeah. Maybe, or whatever. It looks different a little bit, but they're not moving stuff around. They're not, doing what they used to do in old versions of Windows where they would just kind of move stuff in the start menu to keep you on your toes. If that's what it is, if that's all it is, which, by the way, I think is important and should happen. I don't, some people kind of dismiss the importance of visual changes. And by the way, that's not directed to you. I'm sorry. As I said that, but some people think, well, that's just surface level fluff.
Visual changes.
No, I know, but I didn't mean it like that. I mean, in other words, a visual change does not a major update make. Actually, honestly, I think refreshing the visuals is important, and it's all good. But if that's all it was, would that mitigate that problem that you were just describing? Right.
No, because I think it depends how much, when somebody says UX or UI changes, that can mean a lot of things. If it just means rounded corners, sure. If it means suddenly things are moved around or like things look different and you're going to have to retrain your users, then that's the problem, right? Like if suddenly they're used to doing things in a certain way, like going to control panel or doing something one way, and then that's gone or changed and now they have to tell them where it is, I think that's a bigger problem, right? But you know what I wonder? I wonder if there's more in 21H2 than just Sun Valley, right? Like,
that's the central question.
Major features coming. And I think last I remember, 21H2 is supposed to be a long-term servicing channel release of Windows 10, which means it's even more important, basically, because some customers who want to only be on the LTSC releases will gravitate towards those. So if it has a ton of changes in it, it makes me wonder, will it still be designated LTSC? Right.
Yeah, maybe
we have so many open-ended questions, right? I know. And people are starting to ask me more and more about this. Like I'm getting emails and I'm getting tweets asking me about this. And I'm like, we don't know. We don't.
By the way, speaking of things we don't know, there's another thing happening. There's another Windows release this year. It's not just 21H1 and H2. Windows 10X, right? What form will that take? We've seen the leak and everything. We know it looks a lot like Chrome OS. We know it doesn't run Win32 apps. When is that coming out? When? What types of? It's only going to be on new devices. We know they're clamshell laptop. Standard laptops. What does that look like? How does that get positioned in this world? Who is it positioned for? Meaning customer types, education probably. Maybe even some commercial customers, et cetera.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And so all we know there are leaks. I mean, Mike, like we said I think it was last show, Microsoft has not even officially said publicly that Win32 isn't going to be there. We only know that because it leaked.
We only know that because it isn't there. in the leak build that we have.
Right. So we had the leak before it, and then when the actual product leaked, we said, "Oh yeah." So that leak was correct. That Win32 isn't there, right?
I will say, again, just to kind of pile on the complaints, I guess, just in the spirit of what we're doing here. The problem, one of the problems I have with this stuff is, and this applies to 21H1, which is a minor release, so it's not as big of a deal, but it absolutely applies to Windows 10X as well. We've literally describing the system that they have for testing these things called the Windows Insider Program. They're literally not testing either one of these things with that group. It is crazy to me that Microsoft, have built an infrastructure for testing future releases of Windows, and the next two ones that are coming out, the next two Windows versions, are not being tested by this group of millions of people.
So I think that's a problem that's going to be solved imminently for 21H1 at least. Okay. But 10X, from everything I heard about it from various sources, the plan was never to test that with the Insider channel. And you can debate whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. I don't think it's a good idea.
You don't think the reason is to test or not to not to test?
Not to test it. I think it should be tested.
But it's such a stripped down version.
I know.
If you are on the Insider ring, that seems like the last thing you'd want to do is take your full bore Windows 10 and put it on 10X.
But here's the thing. When you put we'll just talk Windows. This is true of all kinds of things. But you beta test a product, Windows, and then those people find some stuff that maybe Microsoft internally wouldn't have seen, for sure.
Right.
But then you put it out into the broader world, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, the Kindle explodes when I connect it, or things that didn't come up during testing for some reason.
By the way, quite notably, that did not come up during testing, even in the beta.
Yeah.
But okay,
right.
Yeah, but I mean those things happen, right? So
you want to broad as possible. You want to be as broad as possible, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So
but you know what? I think the reason they're not doing it is because it's going to be relegated to new hardware. But people are out there testing it through the leak. It runs on existing hardware. It may not be the exact experience you'll have on the new hardware, but I feel like you could at least have people kick the tires and say,
exactly.
by the way,
and saying, hey, this one thing does one thing that isn't right, or whatever, or or just get some feedback. Like maybe this, like one of the weird things about Windows 10X is the access to the file system is extremely limited, and basically to just the downloads folder. I mean, even Chrome OS allows for more access to the file system, and not too much more, but sometimes you put this stuff in front of people, and you'll have enough people who will say, hey, could you add this? And it will make sense. And Microsoft in their testing, because they basically just photocopied the Chrome OS manual, never thought to add this one feature or whatever it is. And that's something that should be added before it goes out to the general public. It's just, even when Terry Myerson was still running the show, I met with him one year at CES, and I'm not particularly insightful, but he was telling me about Windows 10 Cloud at the time, which was going to become Windows 10S. And I said, well, but what about, whatever? And he leaned back in his chair and he blasted out an expletive at the ceiling. And it was something that had never occurred to him. And he's like, you're right, this is going to be a problem. And I'm just one person. I'm not anybody special. Put it out in front of thousands of people. Some group consensus is going to come like, hey, maybe this could be like this. And Microsoft will be like, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Why would you wait to release it to find that stuff out?
You know what? It's this perpetual trade-off they have there about secrecy versus testing, right? Like, look at when Windows RT came out, remember? Had anybody outside of Microsoft ever tried that publicly?
No.
So, and then it came out and everybody was like, wow, this is wrong and this doesn't work and this is bad. And I'm like, you know what? That could have gone to like even a slightly larger outside group that were under NDA, something. It would have leaked, sure. But I think when you come to PCs, PC hardware and PC software experiences, you should err on the side of more testing versus secrecy. I think you should. Right?
Yeah, me too. I don't understand why any of this has to happen secretly. There isn't some a competitor out there that nobody knows about that might be stealing your ideas. We know Microsoft is working on Windows 10X in this case. We know that it's a lot like Chrome OS. Why wouldn't you want people to test it? Why wouldn't you want to ensure that when this thing shipped, it was at least as good as Chrome OS?
Yeah.
Isn't that the baseline? We've been waiting in secret for you to come out with this thing for 2 years, and then you did, and it's not quite as good as Chrome OS.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But you know why? So there, that I understand. They don't want people to say this is like Chrome OS, which everyone is going to say, right?
It is,
but they've never
literally
said that. I know.
like Chrome OS.
I know. Right. They don't want to look like, we're responding to our competitor.
They've already released a Surface laptop. We get it. You're copying people. It's okay.
I know. I agree. I think it actually might better serve them to say, yeah, there's this thing called Chrome OS out there, but we think we can do it better. Take the Intel versus Mac thing, right?
The Mac had it still has a trash can, right? They call it trash can, I think is the name of it.
Yeah.
So
unlike the recycle bin.
Yeah, IBM came along with remember they had a file shredder?
Yeah.
So then Microsoft came along with the Windows 95, like, what's left? I guess we'll use a recycle bin. I mean, come on. We get it. It's the same thing. Just
I know.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
An idea that works is an idea that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although they did sue. Apple. Apple sued over the trash can.
Well, as it turns out, Apple did
really?
invent a trash can. So
yeah, I can't remember what the outcome of that was. But yeah, they said Microsoft stole the trash can.
I think the Apple, what they sued over was probably the Windows 3 UI, I think. And by the time 95 had come out, they had settled, or maybe it was soon thereafter.
Now everybody just copies everybody. Like, look at all the things like Instagram's doing versus Facebook versus this. I'm like, everybody just copies everybody, May the best implementation win, although it never does, but maybe one day it will.
Apple Computer versus Microsoft, Ninth Circuit, 1995. A copyright infringement lawsuit in which Apple sought to prevent Microsoft and Hewlett-Packard from using visual graphic user interface elements similar to those in Apple's Lisa and Macintosh.
So this was based on Windows 95, this lawsuit?
I guess so. That's when it was.
I don't know why I don't remember that. Well, I assume when Apple and Microsoft did their...
Wait a minute. The lawsuit was filed in 1988.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I know Apple sued about Windows early on.
Apple lost all claims in the Microsoft suit except for the ruling that the trash can icon and folder icons from Hewlett-Packard's new wave Windows applications were infringing. So Apple won on the trash can.
Bin.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Wow. Yeah, 1988, I guess it was resolved.
I don't remember that at all.
It was resolved in 95, I guess.
Honestly, Recycle Bin makes more sense because you literally can recycle those files.
I don't know. This says it was filed in 88.
Yeah.
The decision
88 was before Windows 3,
on appeal in 94, and then finally argued before the Ninth Circuit in 95. I
guarantee you that this lawsuit happened. They didn't sue with Windows 1.0 because Windows 1.0 had tiled windows. And then Windows 2.0 probably introduced overlapping windows, and that's when Apple said no. That's too much.
You'll love this. Midway through the suit, Xerox filed a lawsuit against Apple, claiming Apple had infringed copyright Xerox held on its GUIs.
Round and round we go, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's suffice to say that Apple and Microsoft are still making desktop operating systems today, and
they resolved it. The Xerox case was dismissed. And I would imagine Microsoft, I'm still looking through the article, but I imagine Microsoft gave Apple some amount of money to say, we'd like to keep using the Recycle Bin if you don't mind. Yeah, it was based on the original.
I think the Recycle Bin was probably okay. But, of course, those two companies.
that's the one they lost on. They won everything.
Maybe they wanted to use, the Recycle Bin didn't happen until Windows 95. Maybe before they actually had like a trash can kind of a thing. I don't even remember.
Much of the court's ruling was based on the original licensing agreement between Apple and Microsoft for Windows 1.0. So it really was more of a contractual matter than a copyright matter. To the chagrin of Apple, it says.
Right. Anyhow, all of this was, Apple and Microsoft had other outstanding legal issues that were resolved when Steve Jobs came back and Microsoft invested in the company.
Yeah, exactly right.
Agreed to continue.
And then at that time, by the way, that $150 million investment, at that point, both parties entered into a patent cross-licensing agreement.
Yeah, and that was the end of everything.
That was the end of that.
Certainly the end of the bad feelings. We love each other now. It's great.
You know what we do now? Because look what happened with Office for the iPad, right?
Yeah.
That's a love story, just in time for Valentine's Day.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. Okay. But this is the Wikipedia article on this is actually quite interesting. So I'll refer interested parties to that so I don't have to read
88.
more.
88.
Yeah, no, I am positive it was the release of Windows 2 that triggered this. It was the overlapping windows. There's no doubt about it. The Apple was mad with V1, but
I now know why I don't remember it, because I was covering Unix in 1988.
Oh, it's not too late to go back.
Not the toy operating systems.
I know. You know what? My history serves me well.
It does. It does. And you and we could talk about Lisp later on. It'll be fun.
I covered Lisp, too. I wrote many articles on Lisp.
What?
Yep.
Now we really must talk. Where are we in the show notes? I'm completely lost.
Hold on. Where are we
Microsoft releases a dev build that actually has a few improvements. Did we do that?
No, we did not.
Do you want to do that?
Sort of.
Because I'm curious what the improvements were. I don't remember any.
Yeah, they're not major. There's only 3 of them. So one is that news and interest feed, which is like the second start menu for some reason, is heading to more markets, which is fine. And it's not released yet, so it's not even targeting a specific Windows version. It's like whatever. The dev channel is getting Microsoft Edge fully replacing Legacy Edge. So no surprise there. We heard the news last week. Legacy Edge is on the way out. So now it's been removed, I think as of their most recent build, it's been removed from that channel for Windows 10. And then the other one doesn't really affect us here in Western markets, but the input method editor, which is that pop-up that allows you to do Asian languages and so forth, character-based languages, is being completely redesigned. And that's something I just don't know a lot about because I don't really know any of those languages. And, in an irritating recent example of what we were just complaining about, it's being A/B tested. So, you may or may not get it.
But wait, is this also the build where they decided to stop calling it 2004? Where they took away that language?
Yeah. So I think I don't think it says V. Yeah. What do they call it now? I think it just says Dev. I think that's what they did. They call it Dev. It's like Windows 10 Dev or something.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea.
I agree.
Because it's super, so many people would be like, what am I testing, 2004? I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's not vNext, right? It's not, it's not any version. And so.
I know. Yeah. No, I think it's good they pulled that because it was just causing a lot of confusion for no reason.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I agree. I don't usually write about dev builds because mostly there are no new features or changes. It's just, we fixed a few things. It's been on kind of a slow boil. I feel like someday, I don't know, someday soon, but someday it's going to get this dump of this new UI and it's going to be really exciting again. But man, it has not been exciting in a long, long time.
I know. Maybe at Build they'll talk about this, although that seems like it won't be till May.
We always do this, though. You kind of punt it to the next event, and the next event comes and goes, and there's nothing. And
then you're like, maybe it will be Inspire. No, maybe it'll be an Ignite. And we're like, nope.
Yep, I know. Every time. It's like, it should be. I mean, this seems like the ideal time to do it.
Or you know what? Maybe they have a separate event. Like they're doing more and more, and just have a Windows event and say, you know what? Here's all the things going on with Windows. That'd be amazing, right? That'd be fun.
I agree. So. Yeah, I think. Boy.
Maybe we don't know. I feel like we always say we don't know, but lately I feel like that's all we're saying is we don't know.
Well, I don't think this is betraying any kind of a confidence, but like one of the problems I had over the past year was just the sheer number of announcements that PC makers in particular, but just software companies too, made. And I felt like they were kind of piling it on to kind of make us forget how terrible everything was or something. But all it really did was just, for people like us who have to cover this stuff, it was just a lot of, it just seemed like a lot of extra stuff and really extraneous stuff, And so I just had a meeting with Lenovo about some upcoming stuff. It doesn't really matter what, but I sort of appreciated the way they did it because instead of doing like a gigantic mass briefing thing, they were doing like smaller briefings with smaller groups, and it gave you a chance to kind of chat and hang out a little bit. And that's what's kind of missing from these in-person events, because you would go and sit in a room with a couple of these guys and you kind of just chat, people.
I know.
Yeah. Right. And it took some of the dulling sameness off of what's been going on. So, anywho. Yeah.
This really is apropos of nothing, but as you know, I can't stop talking about. Fits right in. There's two things I can't stop talking about: my new Mustang and Apple's M1 processor.
Well,
I was a little hurt. It was a little close to home, a little painful when Intel started to do those ads mocking the M1.
Mocking the M1.
Dissing the M1.
Dissing.
Yes.
I don't know. I would say competing fairly and accurately. I guess there are different ways to.
Okay.
Well, no. Look.
You love those. You always said Microsoft should really respond to those Apple Switch ads. So
this is something I got into. Yeah. This goes back. That was Windows Vista. This was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
Vista had just come out. I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. I think the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC campaign probably started before the release of Vista, and then they really piled it on when Vista came out. And a lot of it got very inaccurate. I guess I know it's marketing, but I took great exception to some of the claims made in these ads. And I don't care about the depictions of the two guys. They were humorous and all that stuff. They were good actors, whatever. But, I talked to those, Jim Alchin, whoever at the time, the people I dealt with at the time. I was like, guys, you got to fight back, And it took them so long. People probably forget this now, but they did something called Project Mojave, where they set up tents in the parking lots outside of Best Buys.
Yeah.
And they had people come in and they say, hey, look, here's we heard you guys didn't like Vista.
They tricked
Here's the
people.
Next version of Windows. We changed everything. And people are like, oh my God, it's beautiful. I love this. And it's like, it's Vista.
That was the best ad they ever did.
It was Vista. It was just, they didn't change anything. Yeah, because everyone complaining Not everyone, but there were so many complaints. I'm sure some people used it and said this is crap, but most of the complaints were from people who had never even tried it. You know, I have a very distinct memory. Leo just mentioned Sonoma at some point earlier in the show.
Yes, that's where
I went out to Sonoma
County.
with. Yeah, my wife and I and our friends. We went and visited some wineries out there, and whatever.
Showing excellent taste. Yes.
Yep, and Sebastiani, one of our favorites. Anyway. I remember I had my laptop open. I remember the exact wallpaper I had, and I remember it distinctly. And my friend's wife walked over, looked at my computer, and she said, "Oh, is that a Mac? That's beautiful." Oh. And I said, "No, that's Windows Vista, the thing that everyone hates." And it was just seared in my mind. And she was like, "Well, by the way, a Mac user, and one of those people is like, oh, I never use Windows, And yeah. So anyway, Microsoft often tries to take the high road, and my thing is you've got to fight people at the level that they're at. The high road doesn't work because the loudest voice wins, the marketing wins. If Apple in this case is out there marketing.
Do you think though this is kind of childish? If you can power a rocket launch and launch Rocket League, you're not on a Mac. Go PC. Those are the two things I want to do on my computer.
No, but that's not the point.
And by the way, I got to point out that there are a few scientists at NASA who might say, well, actually, I use a Mac. So,
okay. Anyway,
they don't play Rocket League, I admit.
Okay. Yeah. Look, we can't.
Ads are never truthful.
We just sat through 4 months of positive M1 marketing.
Yeah.
But that was accurate.
These baloney graphs that Apple supplied that had no extra Y numbers and no comparison. We just accept this, it's just, and it is Intel's right to fight back against this. I have no problem with this.
I completely agree. Yeah.
And you know what? I feel like even Microsoft has started getting more aggressive than they used to be. I mean, it was so frustrating when you'd see things like the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC thing, and they wouldn't even comment. You couldn't even get a comment off the record, nothing. But now, like if you look at the Google thing in Australia with the news and the publishers, I'm like, so now they've learned like taking the high road isn't a great idea. Just go for it. Like if somebody
no one remembers the guy who decided not to fight. What we remember is Hitler. You know what I mean? Like the people who chose not to take part in that war, we don't remember them. They don't, there's no statues for those people. I mean, you could be funny or you could bring in your own arsenal. But like, I just feel like I never expect ads to be truthful. I just expect them to go for your emotion. There should be a standard for truthfulness in ads, and I think
I never believe an ad is true. I always think they're all lies.
Well, there's nothing wrong. This ad is not a lie. I mean, that's true.
No. Right.
I mean, Rocket League anyway. I guess.
Look, here's the thing. So here's how this conversation goes. And this is the problem I have with this whole thing is just the one-sided nature of it. Apple comes out and they make all these claims, and they're all vague and whatever. And then the first wave of reviews comes out. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, performance is incredible. The compatibility is great. This thing's just blah blah blah, whatever. Battery life is great." And okay, great. And then so we'll come out and say,
can you play Rocket League?
No. That's not, no, it doesn't have to be. No, that's just Intel. I'm just saying.
I know.
Someone will come out and say, well, okay, but Mac users are often more technical. A lot of programmers are on the Mac, a lot of designers, and blah blah blah. I need to use multiple displays.
Yeah.
So I have like a 2-display setup here, and can I do that on the M1? No. But here's the problem. So that's a fact. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
But then this is how the conversation always goes back to be pro Apple at the end. Well, that will happen in the M2. Yeah, we're not talking about the M2. We're talking about the thing that we're competing with today. Because does it work with an eGPU? Oh, it doesn't? Oh, well, there you go. There's another thing you can't do. I mean, the reality is that what Apple did is incredible for Apple, but I don't think it really changes the dynamics of the competitive nature of PC versus Mac. And there are things that you can't do on the M1, which everyone's just kind of glossing over. And when it comes up, they'll just say, "Oh, but they'll wait until you see what they do with the M2." Oh my, it's the second gen stuff is going to be incredible. Yeah, everything in the future is going to be incredible. We're going to be flying around in cars. We're going to have jetpack things that we go to the store with. I mean, we can only compare what's happening right now. So
you're getting at the heart of what is the problem with tech reviews in general, right?
Yes. Right.
Because not just Apple, but Microsoft does this. Every vendor does this. They pick people almost always pick people they think will give a favorable review to get the first round of hardware, right? Every once in a while that doesn't happen. Like when I got the Surface Duo, that was very surprising because I had been
well, you know what? They took
Surface.
a calculated risk. I think what they saw in you, you were like, okay, she uses Android. She uses Android. She likes Microsoft stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure that what they were hoping was you were going to say, hey, I love having Excel next to Notepad.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Exactly. No, but I feel like that's the problem when you see reviews come out a lot of times. I won't say always, but when you read the first round of reviews of any new hardware or software product, you have to think, they've had it for X amount of time. These are the people they thought were going to give it good marks. So let's now wait for the second round, right?
Let us not forget. By the way, so I've been reviewing PC hardware for over 20 years, right?
Yeah.
And I've watched this new crowd of younger people come along, as I'm sure people watched me when I was younger come along and hated me. And they do these quick, they use something for 3 days, they read a review, glowing, it's awesome, and they move on to the next thing. This is very common, whether it's a video review on YouTube or a written review on a website or blog or whatever. I challenge you all to go back and look at August, whatever year it was, when the Note 7 came out, and the glowing, over-the-top reviews about how Samsung has done it again. They've set the high bar. The industry is going to change again. And then they started catching on fire. Because one of the problems with those reviews was they were only based on a few days of usage. No one had the thing for even a couple of weeks.
Right.
And then they started exploding and catching on fire. Yeah. And then they had to recall it, you know?
Yeah.
That's an extreme version of the problem.
Yeah.
What?
I think it's the pressures of the internet have changed how people do their reviews. Like, remember when even before the Duo came out, people were going to Best Buy and doing a review by holding the device in their hand in Best Buy and then posting it as an hands-on review. Because everybody wants to be first, and nobody cares anymore about what about thoroughness, right?
At the Surface, the very first Surface event, which I refused to go to because they wouldn't tell me what it was, and I had to fly all the way to Los Angeles. There were people who held mock-ups of Surface PCs because they didn't have any real ones,
right?
And then they wrote hands-on reviews of the product. People that we know did this, and I mean, this is I suppose this is the pressure of the internet age or whatever, but I just feel like you can be fair, you know? Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to be fair all the time? I'm sure these people think they're fair. I don't know. But anyhow, look, what Intel's stance on the M1 is something that I agree with completely. And it's not, it arrived there organically. It's not like I align with Intel.
What is their stance on the M1?
That what Apple did with the M1 is incredible.
Oh, okay.
And they've literally said this to me. It doesn't really impact the PC market that much.
Yeah.
And no, at all. Like, I don't think it ever will. And the reason is, and by the way, look, Intel can adopt processor architectures and do different cores and all that stuff. I'm sure their products will evolve. For a Mac user, and especially as the future generations do come and it encompasses all the Macs, yes, I mean, these are nice upgrades. We already have PCs that get 10 to 20 hours of battery life. We already have PCs that can do all these things. Like, PCs already are in the space. They're already there. Good. And I just don't, the problem with Apple. If it's not a threat to
Intel, they should just keep doing what they're doing.
No, hold on. There's two sides to Intel.
Because they're on a good path long run, I think.
Well, okay, so what does that mean, though? Do you think that Macs are going to take over the PC market somehow? Because that's 65% of their revenues. I don't see that happening ever. Okay. Well, it's not going to happen. So whatever. I mean,
I don't think Apple wants it to happen. Do you?
No.
I think Apple wants to be the premium.
Why that's not?
No. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me just boil this down to the important point is this. What Apple did is incredible, like I said, and like Intel has said. The problem with Apple and the success that they have, no matter what we're talking about, is it's often something that other companies can't duplicate and can't have the same success if they do the same thing. And that's what this is. This is something that works for Apple. because of the way they are and because of the way they do things. It's something that, we can talk about processor architectures and, whatever the technology, but this is really what they're doing is cutting out partners, which is what they always do, and bringing everything in-house, which is what they always do. And it's something that works for them. It's not something HP could do or Microsoft can do. And, that's the problem. The threat to Intel is not so much Apple, but I would say ARM more broadly, because of the data center. I think ARM's biggest pain point for Intel is going to happen in the data center, not on the PC, especially in the short term. That's all. But that's not what we're talking about. Intel doesn't talk to me about data center stuff. That's not, that's not, I don't review data center things. I mean, I review computers. And I went through an extensive hardware compatibility checklist that I created, by the way. And the M1 did fantastically well. Fantastically well.
I'm going to predict that the M1 will impact the PC industry exactly the same way as the iPhone impacted the smartphone industry, which is not to say that the iPhone dominates the smartphone industry. Samsung's the number one, or Huawei is the number one manufacturer. So if you're counting unit volume, you're right. PCs will continue to be a dominant. But I think the iPhone absolutely changed the industry. And I think that you're going to see demand for high power, low TPU processors increase. And if Intel does not respond to that, they're going to be out of the market. And it won't be necessarily Apple. It might be Qualcomm or AMD
Intel is a chipset maker. So if Apple impacts the market, influences the market to change to make things more like Apple products, that's fine. All Intel cares about is volume sales. So if Intel is 80 to 90% of all of the chips that are sold on PCs and PC-type devices, who cares? I mean, and by the way, Intel is, of course, evolving their chipsets to meet this need.
Well, that's what I mean. I think the influence of the M1 doesn't mean Apple's going to dominate, but it does mean it's going to change the way people think about processors.
Look, Microsoft went to ARM because it couldn't get Intel to embrace this ultra-mobile thing, this need for super thin, light, no fans,
right?
ARM-style architecture. And this is another conversation I had with Terry Myerson, actually, where he told me that his goal with Windows 10 on ARM was to get those effing Intel stickers off of laptops. He hated those things. But he didn't care who they partnered with. He partnered with Qualcomm because of size and scope. AMD was, in his words, circling the drain at the time. Really, a perfectly acceptable outcome to him and to Microsoft in general, I'm sure at the time, was that Intel just started making good, good meaning efficient mobile chipsets. Like that's all he really wanted. He only went to Qualcomm because Intel wasn't doing that. Intel was always pushing the performance thing, remember that little gift that Intel gave us a couple of years ago where they just doubled the cores on their base core processors from 2 to 4. And it was extra performance with no hit in battery life, no extra cost. It was perfect. But that's the kind of thing Intel can do. They're good at that kind of thing, I don't know. We'll see. All I can do now, because I'm part of this, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because, my God, you should read the comments on my website. But what I see is what Intel has said. I actually agree with them. Apple has done with the M1 is really impressive. And when you talk about Apple influencing the industry, I mean, I guess you could apply that on a number of levels, and they don't all target Intel. Windows 10 on ARM runs x86 apps in an emulation environment that is based on the x86 emulation environment they added to Windows NT 20 years earlier, right? It's the same technology. Apple is using, it's not emulation, it's translation to run x86 apps in their ARM environment, and it really seems to work really well. This is the thing where you get that couple of seconds of delay the first time you run the app, and then it's fine, right? Perfect. Maybe there's something Microsoft could learn from that and re-architect Windows 10 on ARM to behave similarly and have better compatibility and better performance with legacy apps. We'll see. I will say it is fascinating to me that Microsoft, a company that is so concerned with backward compatibility, got that wrong. And Apple, a company that doesn't give a crap about backward compatibility, got that right with the M1, right? It's kind of fascinating.
Well, but if they had cared about backward compatibility, they would have changed away from Intel. Actually, they'd still be doing PowerPC probably. I mean, that's the beauty of not caring about backward compatibility is you can move on.
Well, it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Oh, yeah, and that's why it doesn't run Rocket League. But
no, but I think
it's a worthwhile trade, to be honest.
It's a tweet. That's the only place that has ever appeared is in that one tweet.
Paul, I didn't bring up this advertising campaign.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, that's one specific example. I mean,
it's a tweet.
Intel is correct to point out the things that the M1 can't do.
And I'm with you. The company should fight back. Absolutely. Yeah. I'd like to see Intel fight back by getting a 7-nanometer process. I'd like to see. I mean, there's many ways to fight back.
So that is an embarrassment, right? And so Pat Gelsinger has just taken over as the CEO of Intel.
One of the things it just happened
just this past week.
Yeah.
One of the things that Intel has now put off to this event because they were going to decide on this earlier was whether or not they should farm out some fab work to third parties so they can have more efficient processes, which for Intel is an embarrassment because they used this was their crown jewel.
Company, yeah.
That's what they did. Exactly. And by the way, a lot of it was in America, is in America. And so it's kind of something they were very proud of. And I think we talked about this. I compared this to the Nokia thing. Nokia was the same way with manufacturing, where they were so proud of the fact that they did everything in-house. They had facilities all over the world. And by the time they were about to go out of business and Microsoft had to bail them out and buy them, those things were just dead weights. They were real estate costs and all the benefit packages and retirement funds and healthcare and all that stuff for all those workers. Everyone else in that market was, and by the way, this is absolutely an Apple innovation, farming that stuff out to third parties who could do it more efficiently in different places around the world. And I think Intel is going to have the same type of problem to deal with. I think they're going to have to get rid of that stuff.
I'm rooting for them because I want AMD and Intel and all the others, Qualcomm and Exynos from Samsung, and Apple's M1. The competition is what drives innovation and drives prices down. We know that. Thank you, AMD. Yep. So I'm rooting for them. Absolutely.
One of the things, I mean, this is kind of this just occurred to me because we're talking about it. I mean, Microsoft has wanted to evolve the PC into this other thing for a long time. They tried with Windows 8 and they tried with tablets 20 years earlier, or maybe 15 years earlier, whatever. But the tablet thing has continued. They've been trying all these thin and light form factors. Of course, Microsoft wants to have laptops that don't have fans. And by the way, there are some. And by the way, there are some that run Intel processors. But Intel has always, they've pushed the performance thing. This is the megahertz wars mindset. That has always kind of dominated over at Intel. So they have new leadership now. We'll see what happens. But I feel like the M1 thing, what gets lost is it doesn't fundamentally change the competitive nature of Mac versus PC. The Mac has certain pros and certain cons, and the PC does as well. And I don't know. It's not like all of a sudden Macs just get way better battery life than all PCs, or Macs are way faster than all PCs, or Macs are, whatever. Like, that's not actually true. It's a huge advance for Apple. It really is.
Yeah. And the world is changing, and that's one of the things that's exciting about
No, that's one of the things that's wrong. No more change.
No change. We'll take a little break here. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley. We're talking about Microsoft. We're going to talk about Office, Surface, Pinterest, or is it Pinterest? I don't know. If Microsoft buys them, maybe they can rename it. Xbox and more. It's all coming up.
They can call it M-Trist.
M-Interest. Mintrist. Actually, that's refreshing. That's a refreshing name. I like it. Our show today brought to you by Gabby. I wanted to show you. So I'll tell you the whole story. Last month we got a bill from our house insurance. saying they were going to raise it. I remember Lisa screaming, it's going up like $7,000. I can't remember what it was. I think it was $7,000, maybe $8,000. And so I thought, well, we should shop it, right? Have you ever tried shopping insurance? So first of all, you have to go to each different insurer. And on average, by the way, Gabby says it's 1,100 characters because each one you have to fill out all this stuff. You have to give them your current policy information and all that stuff. And then you get a quote and then another quote and another quote. And often they're not comparable because they were insuring different things. It's tough. Instead, I seen the ad for this thing called Gabby, G-A-B-I, and I downloaded the software, the iOS app. And I gave them a little information about us. One of the things you do, and I should mention this, you give them the login to your insurer. So I gave them the login to our auto insurance and our home insurance. That way they can get the policy. They can see exactly what the policy is, and then they shop it for you. And they do this all within a couple of minutes. Almost instantly, we got. They told us two things. One I really liked. They said, "You know what? Your auto insurance is as good as it gets. Thumbs up. We can't beat that." That's good news. However, they said we can save you at least $2,000 on your home insurance. And I showed this to Lisa. She said, "This is great." We went through the whole process. In fact, I just wanted to show you on the Gabby thing. Thank you for selecting our other offer. Just so you know, I'm not making this up. They saved us almost $2,000 in our home insurance. This is a really cool idea. Gabby doesn't sell insurance. They are not in the business of collecting information, or your information, or anything like that. The innovation was we are going to get these insurance companies, auto and home, to create an API so that we can interact with them, and we can do what would normally take you days, maybe months to do, over a couple of minutes. On average, Gabby customers save $961 a year in their pocket. We saved double that. That's on car and home insurance. We saved it just on home insurance. It's an amazing service. They compare with 40 of the top insurance providers, like Progressive and Nationwide and Travelers. There are still some insurers who are going kicking and screaming to this. But I think as Gabby continues to be successful, eventually they're going to say, okay, we'll give you an API. All you do is you link in your current insurance. In most cases, you'll receive quotes in a few minutes for the same coverage you have, and that's the whole point. They want to match that coverage. That's exactly what we did. If you want to move forward, by the way, no obligation at this point. You haven't agreed to anything. If you want to move forward with one of the quotes, the insurance company you selected will, of course, have to underwrite it, so they'll review all the details and confirm the final price. And that may change slightly. I want to be completely upfront as they review it and get all the information. And that's normal. But the whole point is this process is fast. Within a few days, we had sometimes in some cases you'll have to talk to somebody at Gabby, an underwriter at the insurance company. We didn't. We got our policy in the mail 2 days ago. We're saving thousands. As I mentioned earlier, Gabby customers save an average of $961 a year. It would be nice to have that, wouldn't it? I just want to say it really works. It worked for us, and coincidentally, when they said, "Hey, you want to do? Could you do some ads for us?" I said, "You know what? I can with real confidence say this works." If you think you might be overpaying on home or auto insurance, and you may not even know, because have you shopped it? I guarantee you it's too hard. Most people don't. Or maybe you went to a broker who has a few different. This is 40 different insurers. Just try it. No obligation, no cost. You're not bound in any way until you go through the whole process. See how much Gabby can save you. It's totally free. Go to Gabby.com/Windows, Gabi.com/Windows. As long as it's spelled Gabi, I don't care how you pronounce it. Gabby.com/Windows. We thank him so much for saving us. We really appreciate it, and I encourage you to try it. And if you do, please do me a favor, use that special URL so they know you saw it here. Gabby.com/Windows. I can say with confidence it really works. I already kind of tipped this story, but I'm so excited.
Okay.
I don't know why, but Office on the iPad now. I mean, it was on the iPhone, but I'm not going to do a word processing on the iPhone. But I use my iPad practically as a laptop. I mean, I have the magic keyboard.
We're skipping some stuff here.
Wait a minute. What are we? Office?
We can do this first.
Oh, you want to do Edge first? I'm so sorry. I did skip. I lost track of where we were.
It's okay.
No, you got excited about iPad. You saw
did.
iPad and your eyes lit up.
Well, it fits the way I'm using the iPad, and it's nice to have a real word processor.
Yeah, I love
we could do that first. We could do that first and then go back to it.
It's
okay, Leo. Just change everything. We don't care.
I'm so sorry. Are people in the Windows world perturbed that Apple's doing this on the iPad? Is it like?
Well, we got to separate the Windows world from the Windows enthusiast world.
Yes, right.
Sure. Yeah. No, so we're talking about. Well, wait. We should say what we're talking about. This is the Office app, which is super confusing to me that they call it the Office app. But it's Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, like a subset of functionality of those three apps, all munged together into one app. Right.
Munged, by the
Some
way, is
people
the
call
technical term.
Microsoft Works, kind of.
Right.
Except Office, right? So that already, like you said, Paul, that already exists on iOS, like for the iPhone. It exists on Android. It exists on Windows. And finally, this week, it now exists for the iPad.
Well, it doesn't exist on Windows in that way, right? There's an Office app.
Not in that way.
Right. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's an Office app.
You can go to
That's another
office.com,
confusion.
right?
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, you're right. There isn't a separate app like this for Windows. Instead, you can go to office.com to use it that way.
Anyway, but okay.
Yeah. But I love this app on my Android phone. I use it all the time because it doesn't just have the
Microsoft.
Functionality. It is. It's perfect, right? It's just
the right amount.
Word, Excel, and PowerPoint I need. And the way you buy it is it's a free download. And then there is a set of basic functionality that is also free in the app. But if you want to do more, any kind of slightly more complex task, and so on the iPad, that means even like writing anything or editing a document, you have to actually still have a subscription to Office 365 or Microsoft 365 Home or Family. You have to have one of those two things, right? Sorry,
or presumably a commercial version would probably work too.
Or a commercial version, right?
Yeah,
right. So, you can do, like, they call it a free app, and there is some stuff that you can do for free, like just like looking at a document, reading it, looking at a PowerPoint presentation. But if you want to do any kind of authoring or editing, you're going to have a subscription to the service.
Well, it depends on the size of the screen, right? So I think on the iPad Mini and I think on the non-Pro iPads, I think they give you light editing capabilities.
Yeah. They told me yesterday 10.1 inches is the cutoff. So if it's 10.1 inches or bigger, that's when you have to have.
So actually that's almost all iPads. So I think only the iPad Mini has a smaller screen than that.
Okay.
Anyhow.
Yeah, but I like this app because it also adds in things like you can create a PDF from a document. You can use Microsoft Lens to do various things. There's like a lot of different things you can do. Scan a PDF so that it's not necessarily just Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but there's a whole bunch of extra capabilities beyond that too.
Yeah, and it gives you that recent documents effect, which is kind of the point of it, right? That maybe you were working on some document on your computer or your Mac or whatever, and you wanted to just do a proofreading maybe on the. Well, you're not going to work on a train, but whatever the scenario is. Yep. And that thing pops. If you were just working on it, it's going to be at the top of the list. It opens inside the app. It's nice.
Mm-hmm. I use it on my phone all the time to sign documents because people send me documents and I'm like, oh, I can just open it in the Office app on my phone, sign it on my phone, and then send it back without having to scan or do anything crazy. You can just do it from your phone. Yep.
So here's the question, though. Why did it take a year? Right? This thing came out on the iPhone a year ago. Literally, like a year ago this week.
They say these apps are all customized for the platform, but I mean, how much customization did they have to do for the iPad, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, right. I mean, the apps themselves, they already have those individual apps are already there on the iPad, so they know, they already know about the layouts and all that stuff. I mean, to me, it's just the shell part of it, right? The display of the recent documents and, the whatever that UI is you get like in the home screen or whatever. But it doesn't seem like something that would have taken a year.
I know. And you know what else was weird? I don't know how much of it is up to Apple, right? Because they announced that this was going to happen a few weeks ago. And when Microsoft announced that it was coming, they didn't have a date. They just said it'll be in the App Store. And I'm like, that's weird. Why didn't they give any kind of timing? Well, and it might have just been because it's up to Apple, right? Like,
yeah, Apple spins the roulette wheel. We'll see what happens.
They have to approve it, but I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be a problem to approve it. I mean,
it has the subscriptions to Office 365 and Microsoft 365 are in-app purchases in this. It does show it that way.
Okay, so that's what the negotiation was. Does Apple take 30% of that? Yeah, it was over money. Yeah.
So they've already gone through that with the individual apps, right? This is not
with iPhone. So you're right. They wouldn't have to renegotiate that.
Yeah, unless they renegotiated it for some reason, but.
Well, it's a lot less useful on the iPhone than it is on an iPad, to be honest.
Yeah. Sure. Well, that's the thing. Sure. I mean, if you're paying for a Microsoft 365 subscription, you have an iPad with a keyboard. This is
it's a
fairly
laptop
full-featured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
right.
That's good.
Right.
That's why I was
That's
excited.
worth saying. Like, so if you, like Paul said, and this is worth repeating, if you already have a subscription, you just get everything for free.
Which I do.
For this.
Yeah. Yep. For $8 a month.
And it's Microsoft. It's not like they're incessantly selling you on a subscription. They would never do that.
You'll never see a pop-up or an ad, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why it did take a year.
This
Maybe
is a company that just put an ad in the settings pane for Microsoft Edge on Windows. So, yeah.
Hey, speaking of Edge.
Right. Oh, yeah, that thing.
Now we can do it. I'm so sorry.
I find this topic semi-fascinating because, like, as web browsers have matured and become, they're like the front ends for web apps, or like full-featured apps. Of course, there's all these features that we know from native platforms like Windows, the Mac, or whatever, that are coming, to the web and have been on the web actually for many years. And one of them is notifications, right? And browsers handle notifications pretty similarly, I would say. And before we had notifications, I remember like in the early days of Legacy Edge, I was like, when are we going to get notifications? When are we going to get notifications? And then you get notifications, you're like, oh man, these are really annoying.
Exactly.
And they're annoying on mobile, they're annoying on the desktop. Like they're kind of terrible. Like and then for myself, like personally, I don't know about you guys, but like I don't actually want notifications from most things, almost everything really. So anyway, Microsoft in the beginning with the new version of Edge put up this dialog box that's very similar if you're familiar with Chrome, allow or block. This site wants to show you a notification, allow or block. Of course, it gets in the way, as Microsoft would say, it gets in the way of your flow, interrupts your flow. We don't want the flow to being interrupted. We want the flow to flow. So they decided not to do these anymore, and they have silent notifications, essentially, where you just get like a little bell up in the address bar. And the thing is, no one ever sees that thing, right?
No.
There's all these little garbagey icons up there, and I don't think anyone pays attention to any of them, Or
when I read this post, I'm like, oh, that's what that little bell is. I didn't even know what that was.
I mean, it's really strange. And the thing that really, let me see if I can find an example of this. The thing that really bothers me about this, where would I find this? Like, if you see that little, I can't find an example, but if you see, I know what it is. Google Calendar has this notification. So it says notifications blocked, right? So you click on it and it says notifications are automatically blocked for all sites except those you allow. Okay. Allow for this site, or then you can manage. And when you click manage, it just goes to a list of the sites that you are allowing or blocking explicitly. It doesn't give you an option from there to say, don't ever show me this again. Like there's no,
I know.
You'd have to go to manage and then paste in a URL to block it. Like if I don't ever want to see that icon on this site, which I access every day and I'm never turning notifications on for, I don't have a way to do that right from it, which is kind of a terrible UI in its own right. Anyway, the problem with the silent notifications is that they're just as radical as the full notifications in that, in this case, people don't see them. They don't even know they existed. exist. So what Microsoft found was that there were these sites that used to have a pretty good level of acceptance of notifications that all of a sudden dropped off the face of the earth. So they're like, well, maybe there's a happy middle ground. And that happy middle ground is something they call adaptive notifications. And so they're using a scoring system. Of course, they're at Microsoft, classic Microsoft, based on the acceptance of notifications out in the world. Less reputable sites will get a silent notification. More reputable sites that have a high retention rate for notifications will get the full notification. If you click block on like 3 of these things in a row, you'll just go to silent notifications. And actually, I'm using the wrong term. It's not really. It's what are those actually called? They are called. What are they called? Anyway, silent notification is not the right term. But anyway, there's full notifications and this other type, and now there's adaptive. And so it's not a new type of notification. It's just a new way to handle how notifications work. So I think they've done a pretty good thing here with the shift. I guess.
Can you can, I'm sure, go in. I haven't tried this. I do this on every other browser, though. And it's usually buried away somewhere. Say, I don't want to be asked about notifications. I don't want to hear about it. You can turn that off, right? Yeah.
Yep, you can. Yep. Yeah. And in fact, that's one of the. So, like I said, if you actually just block 3 of these in a row, they'll just enable it. You'll get the silent notifications. But there is a place in settings where you can say, don't even show me that. Just
that's actually better than anybody else, where they actually pay attention to what you ask, what you say, and they go, "Oh, maybe you don't want this."
And actually, I to give a little bit of credit to Brad. As Brad pointed out to me this morning, this is the kind of feature that would have been impossible in the old version of Edge because they only released it twice a year.
Right.
Now they've got a new version coming out every 6 weeks. Like we can tinker with this.
Browsers should be updated. I think monthly. I think all the time. I mean, for security reasons, I'm sure they are.
Yep.
So
I mean, browsers are just so important.
They're the front line of defense. Yep. Okay, so that's good.
It's like we have all these firewalls and everything, but we have this one application that's designed just to download stuff from the internet. Right. It's weird that hackers would target that app.
Oh, I wonder why. Yeah.
And you say it's the #1 used app on every computer. Interesting. Okay. It's like, forget about Adobe. Let's go after these guys.
Oh, I see. It's right here under cookies and site permissions. It's a site-specific site permission notifications.
Cookies and site permissions. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a cool thing.
I just don't want to know. Quiet notification requests. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah. Not silent. Quiet.
Shh.
I guess those are similes.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the ask before sending setting, which it says recommended, but that you turn it on, but if it will block if turned off, so that's even better than quiet. That's like I don't want to be asked.
You wouldn't even see the little bell thing.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to.
Yep. I don't even want to know.
Because it's, I mean, I guess you want notifications from your calendar. There are things you want notifications from, but Reddit's not one of them.
No, and this is a problem for all browser makers. I mean, you want to have kind of like a Spartan look to it, but you also want to expose functionality. Like the page I'm looking now, and it's on my site too. It's like it has like 3 icons in the address. Actually, it's 4 counting the one over on the left, but 3 over on the right. And it's like, what the heck are these things? Like, what is this stuff? Yeah. It's like one is like manage your passwords because I sign into the site. Mm-hmm. And then there's one for immersive reader, right, which is that thing that gets rid of the ads and is kind of nice looking. And then there's one for adding this page to favorites. And it's like, there's just like icons. It's like after a while, it's like you're just looking at icons. I don't even know what's going on here.
This is a big issue in general for computing. Yeah. Which is you want to give people features and choices, but you don't want to overwhelm them.
You don't want to overwhelm them. Yep.
I got a new car, right? I think I might have mentioned that. And
what kind of car did you get?
I can't remember. It's out there, though. Pretty generic looking.
In the parking lot?
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. It's one of the big issues with cars. It's a bigger issue with cars because I personally want to have a switch for windshield wipers, and I want to have a knob for my lights and stuff. But then there's also and so German cars tend to have fewer switches. Japanese cars tend to have lots of buttons, dials, and knobs.
Right.
And now the newer style EVs
call that
like
Sony disease.
And then the newer style EVs, like I think the Model 3, I think the windshield wipers are actually There's no physical thing. It's on the screen.
Right. Yeah, I don't see.
That's problematic.
One of the early things they learned about as car makers turned to these screens, one of the big mistakes they made early on was they put of course, you're going to put the radio stuff there. You can display album art and whatever. But volume control on a touchscreen is terrible.
Yeah.
And, one of the things they kind of found out was like, a knob, I know a knob is kind of old fashioned, but it works really well for that kind of thing.
You know what, actually, that's very germane to this Ford Mach-E because they have a big, Tesla style, screen in the middle of the thing. It looks just like a Tesla. Yeah. But there's a big volume control button at the bottom,
right,
on the screen, and it turns out it's just glued on the screen. It has capacitive sensors underneath it.
Yeah.
So it's like you're doing this with your finger. Yeah, it's the Surface style. It's not even electronic. It's like it's touch.
Yeah, because you could just spin it infinitely and
but it thinks it's a finger going around and around. But you know what? I like having a really big knob for my volume.
Right. Right, because when you're driving, and it's something you can grab without having to look at
down. And you're trying to pay attention to the road.
Who's ever done it? It's like, I want to switch songs. So like, this is an accident waiting to happen. You're like, where's?
Yeah.
Well, there is also CarPlay and Android Auto, and there are lots of things on the screen, and it's very pretty, and so it's still a hazard, I'm sure.
Leo, look, just admit it. You were watching Netflix on the way to work today. We get it. It's okay.
I was blasting the music is what I was doing.
Kimmy Schmidt isn't going to watch itself. I got to,
That's right. Unbreakable. Hey, Lord, damn it. Is that everything you want to say about Edge? Because, I don't
the other Edge feature that we didn't talk about, which is worth a mention.
You should mention this. Kids mode. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Kids mode. Coming to the Canary version first for people to test. So this is basically putting content that is kids friendly front and center in Edge. It's like, what was that feature called on Windows Phone? Kids Corner, right?
Kids Corner, yeah.
Yeah. The idea is if you want to have your kid using the browser and you want to be sure they're not like going to get adult content when they use their Bing search engine or certain kind of images that you want filtered from what they see, this will set that whole thing up for you, basically. So it takes care of the content. It does filtering with Bing Safe Search. It gives you even some kid-friendly filters and what's the word I'm thinking of? Themes there for the kids. And I think this is very important. It is not going to require the kids to have a Microsoft account, because I think that was a controversial thing around Kids Corner and some other privacy things and kid-related things Microsoft's done. So I hear no Microsoft account required. You won't have to create a family group, which is good. Right now, this is limited to Edge on Windows and Mac OS, US English only. So I'm sure they're going to expand that in the future. Who knows when, but at some point. So yeah, I think it's interesting and yet another attempt to differentiate Edge and to make it more consumer friendly and to get people to use Bing.
As you described this, it occurred to me, Microsoft Edge has different channels, right, as well in the Insider program, Beta, Dev, and Canary. I think Canary is every day, right? And is Canary where this is, the kid feature?
Yep.
Is it in Canary? So Canary must be, we're on Edge 88 today, so Beta must be 89, right? Dev is 90, I guess, and then Canary would probably be 91. I'm assuming that's how this works. And then every 6 weeks, roughly.
Unless it's like Windows.
Well, that's what I was that's what I'm getting at. I think that is how it works. And then every 6 weeks, a new version of Edge comes out, really just like Chrome, right? Chromium and Chrome and Edge all have the same basic release schedule. What a wonderful bit of clarity here, right? Yeah. Assuming I'm correct that these things are those versions that, a feature hits Canary, and that means we know it's going to come in whatever 3 times 6, 18 weeks or whatever that is. 3 versions from now, we're going to get this feature. And so we can test it over time publicly, right? Transparently. Yeah. We're not worried about tipping off.
I don't know if that's how that works, actually.
Okay. Well, it is how it works for Beta and Dev. It is how it works for Beta and Dev.
Yeah. Because Canary is daily updates. Then they said in yesterday's post that At some point, relatively soon, this feature, Kids Mode, is going to move into dev. So once
dev is 12 weeks out, right?
Okay, and then after, obviously, then it goes to mainstream. So yeah.
No, but
maybe you're right.
You know, Edge competes with Chrome and Opera and whatever, Firefox, whatever else, and Safari. You know, it's not like they're not doing this with the web browser, right? In other words, Edge 89 comes out whenever it comes out, and oh my God, here's this secret new feature. We were just testing this internally. We never told anyone about it. You know, to me, this is how software development should be done in the 21st century. I don't understand secrets anymore. I don't know. I have a big problem with this Windows thing. Can we go back to that? I have a little rant I'd like to go on.
I think you haven't complained about that enough today.
All right.
Okay. Are we done with the Edge?
Yeah. We're done with the Edge.
I'm not tempted. I'm not tempted.
You shouldn't be.
I shouldn't be tempted.
No.
But Surface Duo is now $500 less than I paid for it. That's a 50% drop, 33% drop. Because it was $1,500, now it's $1,000, and you can get it in more countries. Should people rush to get it? I mean, I think at $1,000, it's not as crazy.
I will say, look, here's the reality. It should have launched at $9.99, right?
Yes.
Whenever that was, August or whatever.
Yeah.
It should have. Now, at that price, people would still have complained, of course, because for $9.99, you get the highest end iPhone, you get the highest end Samsung, you know, whatever, or roughly, you know, I know they're a little bit more than that, but, and this thing is, you know, last gen processor, yada, yada, yada. There's also some questions about how much you can cut the price of something that has two displays, right? I mean, there's some cost built into this thing, for sure. I don't know how low it can go, but no, I don't think the value proposition here has changed.
No.
You know, since the initial release, unfortunately.
No, and it feels like I thought they were going to rev this a lot more than they have, and I don't even know where I read this, but Android 11 isn't going to come to this device till the middle of this year.
I know, it's crazy.
I know. I'm like, really? Wow.
It's crazy.
Plus, even though they're starting to expand it into new markets, in those markets, the price hasn't been cut. So it's only been cut in the U.S. Okay. It hasn't been cut in the new markets.
Well, that's frustrating.
I know.
Yeah.
So if you're like, I saw people in England saying, wait, if I put this in U.S. dollars, it's like $1,800.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think they've got to be working on the Duo 2, and maybe we'll see that this year, and maybe that's why the price is cut in the U.S. I don't know. But I do think they're going to have a Duo 2. I do.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, the form factor is fine. I think smaller bezels, you know, would help. Yeah. The cost is an impediment for sure. Yeah. You know, the camera obviously is a problem. Before this thing came out, or maybe when it came out, I'm sure the discussion we would have had is Microsoft is this company that has a rich history of updating users more than they want. Surely they will do a great job of keeping this thing up to date. And they really haven't done that. And I'm really, frankly, surprised by that.
Yeah, see, that's my question. Is it any better than it was when Mary Jo and I had our little fling?
No, I don't think so.
With it, not each other. Yeah.
Not in a meaningful way.
I mean, I mean, there's things they've updated. They've added some, reliability and performance kinds of fixes. But in terms of the gestures and the software itself, I don't feel like they've done anything with that, really.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, well.
So, I mean, there must be 1,000 new use cases for dual screens. I mean, that was the big promise. We're gonna find out.
That's always the problem, though, because Microsoft can't do it all by itself.
Exactly.
They have to
and
get
are
other
developers flocking to it?
Yeah,
no.
that's the problem. Yeah.
Well, look, there are a handful of other devices that have folding screens and so forth, and all of those APIs, they're the same. I mean, the capability is the same.
So if I'm getting something that works nicely on my Galaxy Fold, it should work on the Duo.
Yeah. I mean, it won't look as good maybe, depending on the app, because there is that, thing in the middle or whatever. But it should be the same thing.
Okay.
I wouldn't buy this thing with your money, but whatever. I mean,
I stupidly traded it in for a Fold, which was $2,000.
And you hated that though in the end.
I don't hate the Fold,
I thought
but
that was. It's interesting.
You told me to do it. That's why I did it, Paul.
Whoa.
Wait, you took tech advice from Paul.
It was your idea. It was good because I wanted to. It's I wish I could get my money back, but it's a good thing to understand these folding devices.
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry it around because the thing has got to be fragile and it's so expensive.
Sure. Can you encase it in lucite and then hit a hammer against it when you need to use it? There are actually
some good cases for it, but the worst thing that happened last week was, it comes with a screen protector on it, and you may remember the early versions, the reviewers in the Fold 1 peeled the screen protector off and broke the thing.
Yeah.
I know.
And so it's like, don't peel off the screen. But the thing started to bubble, like all screen protectors. It started to bubble up and curl, and it felt terrible. So I just peeled it off, and it seems all right. So far, so good.
Yeah. Okay.
See, it is better than the Surface Duo. So it's
Well, actually, it's better in the one respect that the software does use that real estate. And it's nice in a lot of programs. It's nice to have that big, what is it?
I just feel like this needs to come from Google. The problem with anything from Samsung is you're going to get their kind of take on stuff, which sometimes
I'm
is
not
fine
a Samsung
and sometimes
fan
isn't
anymore. Honestly,
yeah, I'm kind of not either. But I don't know. I'd love to see a Pixel folding display and just native support for all this stuff just coming from them.
Yeah.
Just like the DeX stuff, I feel like the desktop display stuff should come from Google and be part of Android. I don't understand third parties doing this stuff.
Right. Okay, this Pinterest story is fascinating. But before we get to it, I want to take a little tiny break. I hope you don't mind. Did Microsoft try to buy Pinterest? We'll find out in a second. But first, a word.
Yahoo 2.0, baby.
Yeah, baby. Accrete and aggregate, the new Microsoft motto. Our show today brought to you by Udacity. And I know you probably know Udacity. Udacity is kind of a great story. Sebastian Thrun started it, I think 8-9 years ago. I know I joined in 2012. It's a great place to get an education, and it's particularly good because it was started by a Google alumni, and they partnered first with Google and now with other big tech companies for these nano degrees, because the idea is the tech industry desperately needs people, but the problem is getting the training out there, and they decided we're going to do it online so people can do it on their schedule. They can work at a day job and study at night, that kind of thing. But in as little as 12 weeks, they're going to get the skills and a nano degree that can get them a job without wasting either their valuable time or their money. Udacity is the fastest, most efficient way to master the skills tech companies want with nano degrees. It's designed to bridge the gap between, what you've learned already and your career goals. You're going to learn a suite of employable skills. And how do we know they're employable? Because they partner with industry leaders and experts who understand the in-demand skills applicable to the job market. In fact, they're very often the companies themselves. There are nano degrees from IBM, Microsoft, Google, Amazon Web Services. People all over the world are using Udacity. 13 million registered users, 160 countries. This is an internet success story. This is, to me, one of the things the internet does really well. Imagine a kid can't afford to get a 4-year degree, can't afford to even go to a technical school, but is smart, is interested in tech, wants to learn. Suddenly, no matter where in the world they are, they can do that. Once you enroll as a student, and by the way, it's not mechanized learning. They're real people behind the thing. Once you enroll as a student in a specific course offering, you're going to be you can view the course as videos, but you also are required to, and don't be intimidated by this, but trust me, I have taken courses online that didn't require it, and you cannot learn a skill unless you have to do projects. It's one thing to watch somebody do something, go, oh, yeah, I get it. It's another thing to do it on your own, and that's the projects, and that's really great. There's also, when you do a project, you get humans who are reviewing it, real experts, qualified professionals. You get real human help, not just, grading, but real human help, personalized code reviews if you're doing a coding course. And they have mentors They have a great mentoring program. You'll get access to qualified mentors 24/7. Again, this is designed to work anywhere in the world, any time of the day or night, so that you can fit it into your schedule. 13 million users, 160 countries, more than 1.3 million projects completed and passed, and they've awarded 150,000 nanodegrees so far. I think it should be 150,001, and I think you should be the one. AI, cloud computing, data science. You know where there's, I think it'd be really interesting jobs is in self-driving vehicles, autonomous systems. They have a degree in autonomous systems. Programming and development, of course, all the languages. Product management, digital marketing. Tech-adjacent roles, too. So you don't have to be a programmer. There are lots of openings in a lot of related fields, like marketing. You'll also get support to build a portfolio on GitHub. They have a course to do that, or on LinkedIn, which helps you get a job. You're going to learn how to network. They have classes on that, how to get noticed, how to land the job you want. There's a great story on the website about a guy named Francisco Gutierrez, and it's perfect for Windows Weekly. This guy, exactly as I said, he's a smart guy. He wanted, a better life, wanted to support his family, could not afford a 4-year degree, had to work during the day to support his family. He'd taken programming classes at the community college. They didn't get the job done. Never translated into those job-ready skills that got him the job he wanted. He participated in the Grow with Google Udacity Challenge. There are lots of these, by the way. He got a full scholarship for the Mobile Web Specialist Nano Degree. He got a Nano Degree. It took him step by step. Was offered an internship from Microsoft. Did that, and then he got a full-time job offer. He now works full-time as a software engineer at Microsoft, all because of Udacity. You could be the next Francisco Gutierrez. The technology is disrupting industries all over the world. Check out Udacity for Enterprise. If you're in the business with, like ours, with employees who are smart and want skills, Udacity for Enterprise will really help you upskill your workforce. This is education done right, using the internet to do amazing things. Visit Udacity, udacity.com/twit. It's like Audacity without the A. Udacity.com/twit. Right now, we got a special deal, too, for you. 50% off when you use the coupon code TWIT. Now, that's only good through May. You need to execute this before May 30th, before the end of May. So don't wait. Make this be the year that you do it, finally. I know you want it. To redeem the offer, coupon code TWIT. Discount will be applied at checkout. Good through May 30th, 2021. Udacity, Udacity, udacity.com/twit. Really like these guys. Like I said, I joined in 2012 when they first started. I've taken a number of courses there. It's great. I'm thumbs up. Udacity.com/twit. Don't forget that coupon code TWIT. Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to slow you down. I know you're on a roll with Microsoft, Pinterest, or as Paul calls it, P-interest. Is that just a dumb rumor? It's just a dumb rumor, right?
I think it's correct. I don't think it's a rumor.
No, I really did call Pinterest P-interest. Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is a story that came out in the Financial Times. It said Microsoft approached Pinterest, quote, in recent months about acquiring the company, even though it wasn't for sale. And at first I was like, wait, Pinterest? And the more I dug around on this, I'm like, you know what? I think this story is correct. I think they did do this. And the big question is why?
Why?
Right? Why? So
Microsoft Graph, baby.
Yeah, I know. I saw so many people going, it's about the data. I'm like, guys, we said that about LinkedIn, and here we are, right? But I think the reason if this is true, again, we don't know for 100%, but I think Microsoft wants to continue to try to build itself up as a consumer company because they've got the enterprise market, right? Like they're really strong in the enterprise. They've got all the big companies in the enterprise. And then when you look at them in consumer and you're like, they've got gaming. They're really strong in gaming. But after that, yeah, sure, they've got like Office 365 personal and family, and they got a couple other things, but not a lot in consumer. And if you're Microsoft and you're looking at where can we grow our market, you don't grow your market necessarily in the places you're strong. You grow it where you don't exist. And so if they bought Pinterest, I think they believe that would give them a stronger position in the consumer market. This is my theory about why they did this. It's do I think it makes sense? No. Do I think it's a good idea? No. It reminds me of the TikTok bid, or like we said it before the show started, like Yahoo back in the day.
Right.
Right. There are things in there that Microsoft could use.
Expensive as Yahoo. I mean, at least Yahoo was like major.
So Pinterest is valued at 50 billion or 56
that's more
billion.
Than Yahoo. Well, it's a different age too. I mean, this is also 20 years later, but
it is. But there are things you can look at. You can look at Pinterest. Yeah, I know. You can look at Pinterest and see things Microsoft could use, right? Like a lot of people were saying, it's all about imaging, and they're doing a lot with image processing and computer-assisted imaging and blah, blah, blah. You could make an AI case for this.
Find things like this, kind of stuff.
I know, right? You could build up by scanning in all the images, going beyond what they index with Bing now, and actually do something with all that in terms of using it as fodder for their AI engine. Okay, you can make a lot of cases for this, right?
Yeah, not at $50 billion.
But there's a lot of it.
Jeez.
And also,
what? That's the price?
Yeah.
It was some crazy price like that.
Holy cow.
I know.
They have 459 million monthly users.
Yeah.
Which is big, right? And a lot of them are people Microsoft doesn't have, especially women.
Women,
right?
yeah. I mean, there are men like Paul Thurrott
yeah.
who love Pinterest.
Exactly.
But I would guess
also love women, but
yeah. No, I would guess it's. I'm going to forget you said that, Paul. I'm going to guess men who love women and the women who hate
the women
them.
who couldn't care less.
Yeah. I'm going to guess that it's probably 80% female. I mean, it's so. But what else? What other?
This is like double the cost of LinkedIn, though.
It's a lot of money.
This is like almost
more than
4 times the
WhatsApp.
cost of Nokia.
It's twice what WhatsApp was. That's a lot of money.
I don't understand how Pinterest is worth that much, but
I'm not going to even try to place judgment on the value of Pinterest because I don't know how companies are valued. It's like a mystery box how that works. But
God, yeah.
But you have to think about where this fits in the Microsoft vision, or is Microsoft just becoming like Computer Associates back in the day where they're just buying companies, right? And you could remember Computer Associates just started buying companies, and it was like, this is a Computer Associates company, and this is Computer Associates company.
I feel like this is happening broadly in the industry. I can't give you a specific example, unfortunately, but just today I saw a headline that was, company I've never heard of is acquiring another company I've never heard of. And then I'm like, okay, let me go look and see what this thing is. And I just looked at it, see what the things that and I was like, I have no idea. Companies are just buying companies, strategic alliance, some kind of weird positioning. I don't know.
It is weird, isn't it?
I know.
You know what? It's not for us to understand.
It's not.
Right.
I feel like it's like TikTok. Like people are like, yeah, there are places this makes sense, and I'm like,
Well, but in the case of Pinterest, though, were they for sale? Did some other company buy them?
They were not for sale. They're not even trying to like the Financial Times said they're not shopping themselves around. They're not for. They said they are not for sale.
So Microsoft just kind of approached them and said, "Hey,
them. Yeah, hey, what do you think if we bought you?"
Pinterest powered by Microsoft 365.
I don't know.
That would really
guys.
improve their
Really
reputation
thought, even though it was the Financial Times, who has much respect and many sources, I was like, this can't be true. But the more I kind of dug into it, I'm like, I think it is true. And wow. and we should say, Financial Times said the talks are off. They are not active. But that doesn't mean they will not be reactivated at some point if they were active. Right?
I mean, Oracle's probably looking for a purchase now that TikTok's not going to happen. So
I know. Yes,
actually,
TikTok is reasonable.
I just read a statement that said it is wrong to say that TikTok's not going to happen. CFIUS is still reviewing it. The Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S. Yeah, and that President Biden has not indicated one way or the other what he wants to do about it. So I think it was, according to this story, it was premature to say that that deal is.
But if you had to look at a list of like threats to domestic
priority.
security,
Yeah,
do you think is it above white supremacists or is it?
No, I agree.
Where do you put it?
Other things. I think what is happening in Washington is they don't want to do anything until they really step back and see what is the how do we handle the threat from China. I mean, nobody denies there is a threat from the Chinese Communist Party. What is that? How do you handle it? You can't just cut them off. You know, it has to be, these things must be done, as the Wicked Witch of the West said, delicately. So, they might send flying monkeys to China. I don't know, but it's not something you want to rush into. And I think that's the real story is, you know, there's nobody saying anything right now. We got to figure this out.
No, the headlines came out saying Biden was against it and it was tabled. That was like
true.
how people were reporting it.
Turned out not to be true. Yeah. There's a lot, you know, they're not changing the tariffs right away either, right? So there's a lot to I do not envy anybody trying to solve this. It's a thorny problem.
No, I know.
Because we are
not as thorny as Pinterest, though.
But Pinterest, I tell you. Well, you know, and it's all intertwined. We were talking yesterday about Clubhouse, which is, you know, the hot.
Yeah.
Sure. Hotness. Which I had never heard of until it came up in the news the other day.
Yeah, it's the new hotness. Well, if you want an invite, I can send you one. But
probably not.
What's interesting is their back end, Agora, is a Chinese-owned company.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So all of a sudden,
going to be increasingly common, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, Chinese technology is going to be in everything.
You know who this is good for, though, I think, is Microsoft. Because I think
I was going to say Jack Ma, but okay.
Jack Ma, yeah. Nothing's good for Jack Ma right now.
Right.
No, I think Microsoft, as a American-run data company, and I guess Amazon to some degree too, but I think Microsoft can step up. That's what they want to do, right? Step up and say, we'll protect the privacy of American citizens with Azure.
Yep.
It's an opportunity.
It is.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you, but
no,
it's related.
That's all I had to say
that
about
Pinterest story is it's interesting, and I think the Financial Times is not a fly-by-night.
No, they're not. Like
it's no Daily Mail.
Post of
anybody can be wrong, right? Even if you're a big organization, but the way they said it with such certainty, and then I'm like, let me start digging around on this a little.
I think it's interesting. Yeah. It just shows. I think everybody wants social in some form.
They do.
If you look at what they got from LinkedIn, and you could make an argument for Pinterest at maybe the same price. I mean, maybe, but even like 26 billion or 25 billion, whatever. I mean, I don't understand how something like that is worth that much. Yeah. But look at Facebook. I don't understand how Facebook's worth anything.
Advertising and eyeballs, right? Like, so there's a big advertising component to Pinterest.
Oh, of course. That's right.
Potential advertising too. And so if you're Microsoft and you've got Bing and you're thinking like, I need to parlay that into better Microsoft advertising.
Honestly, I'm going to go on a limb and say there might be more synergy here than there is with LinkedIn.
Oh, I guarantee you there is.
You know? I
mean, think about it.
Also, I just said synergy. Sorry.
Oops. Well, we're all in it for the learnings. That's the truth. If you think about it, if I were to say, hey, I got an idea, we'll have a site where everybody goes and just tells us what they're interested in, what they want to buy, what stuff they like. You know, wouldn't that be a fun site? That's Pinterest. And man, the data mining possible there is incredible.
I know.
Right.
Because you're just basically going there. It's none of this social graph, who my aunt is. It's, I want to buy this sofa.
Yeah, it's things I'm literally interested in.
It's a great signal.
This sounds like an ideal purchase for a Chinese company. When you think about it.
Maybe.
Well, there's also the creatives angle too. You know how Microsoft keeps trying to target with Surface the creative market, and
maybe
go
they could buy
Apple.
Etsy. You know,
hey,
we really like makers here at Microsoft.
That would be big.
I think it's also interesting that it's women because that's probably something that Microsoft doesn't tap into.
It's a non-technical, non-male crowd, which is very much not Microsoft's core audience. Yeah. So,
but I used it when I was many years ago furnishing an apartment. I put all the ideas for the furniture and stuff I wanted there. I mean, that's wow. You know, I mean, that's valuable.
Really? You made a mood board on Pinterest?
I didn't call it a mood board, but
Were you getting a pedicure at the time, or what? What else?
yeah. By the way, I just logged into my Pinterest, and right at the top, want the best Pinterest? Get the free Pinterest desktop app, and then it's a big button that says "Get it" from Microsoft. So, I mean, that's the App Store, but because I'm on Windows, but still.
I think I created an account at Pinterest. I'm not sure I ever used it.
No, they had a collection. Microsoft Edge Collections had an angle with Pinterest, right, where you could export your collections directly into Pinterest. Or, no, maybe it's the other way. Import your Pinterest into collections.
I have 5,000 followers on Pinterest.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Spacconapoli, the Ubud Italian restaurant, invited you to join this board. Okay.
I got to say, I don't even understand this site. I'm looking at it now, and I'm like, what am I looking at? It's like...
It's a scrapbook. You just put...
It is.
I know, but like some of the things that are on here are like,
things you want to keep
this is a
up with
poster.
or
Like,
look at.
It's like a thing about Toronto. Like what?
Well...
Oh, so some of these are like photos.
This is...
Right. They're collections of things that you want to keep together, right? And you want to have them accessible in a way that you can just look at them visually.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's really... I think it's great.
Yeah. Paul, I'm not trying to make you open a Pinterest account. I'm not.
No, I have one. I've never used it.
Oh, you have one.
I bet
I
there's
just signed
a
into it.
beers. I'm sure there's a beers board that
I'm
you
sure
can...
there are many.
Yeah. Recipes.
You know what? I don't need one more social thing. I just
right.
I'm
right.
maxed out on social.
That's my thing too.
How much would Instagram be worth today?
God.
I mean,
I
Facebook paid a mere billion for it at the time.
That's hilarious.
I know.
They must be worth many times what Pinterest
at
is
the
worth.
time. I was flummoxed. I said, $1 billion for an app? It's just an app. It had 10 employees. Boy, was I wrong. So this is like Instagram. It's a place, a visual place, great opportunity for advertising, but also for data mining. And it's like Instagram. It's a lot of pictures. Maybe that'd help you understand it better. You know, it's just a lot of pictures. Here we go. There's an ad.
It looks like a lot of
for
ads,
Noom here.
frankly.
There's a lot of ads. Yeah.
I mean, they're.
So apparently they think I'm really
if you're
fat.
Microsoft. No, think if you're Microsoft and you could somehow make it tied to Bing and Microsoft advertising, right?
Yes.
And that all your searches on Pinterest have to go through Bing somehow.
You know, I'll be honest, Mary Jo, I poo-pooed this. Now that I'm thinking about it and looking
Now
at it.
you're convincing yourself
I'm
about it?
convinced.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant
I-
idea.
While I'm here, I'm
so
going to buy
not-
a solo stove and a Thuma bed.
See? There's stuff you want
I know.
here.
I know. You know, the main reason I poo-pooed it when I wrote about it was Microsoft is terrible at managing consumer assets. They're terrible at it.
Yeah.
Like all these things they've had, I don't even want to get into the list because it's too sad, but like, you know, the phone, the band, Zune, they're not good at managing stuff.
That's all hardware. I think they've done a good job with GitHub and LinkedIn, haven't
But that's
they?
not consumer. Neither of
No.
those are consumer, right?
They don't. What do they have that's consumery?
I know, right? Gaming. They're good at
Gaming.
managing their gaming assets.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but the reason
I
they're
don't
good at it is they've left it alone. You know, they've kind of not.
Well,
That's their new MO, right? When they buy a company, they leave it alone.
Leave this
for-
alone. Don't change it. It's successful. Don't change a thing.
I,
Look, here's a whole thing on the beginner's guide on how to drink scotch. Come on, Paul.
is there an intermediate guide? I feel like I'm more of an intermediate.
Well,
I think you've gone past beginners.
here's classic cocktail recipes, a graphic art print on metal, $9.98.
Some of these things are just literally just photos. I don't understand.
No, all of it's literally just photos.
It is.
You don't
it's all
seem-
about images.
You
That's
don't
what
seem
it's
to
about.
understand, Paul.
I really don't. I'm going to get a Therabody thing. It looks like it pummels your muscles or
It's
something.
like going to Instagram saying, but it's just a bunch of pictures. I don't.
Right.
Or yes, or you see like a major artwork and you're like, yeah, but what does it do?
Yeah, what does it do? I went to the Louvre and nothing did anything.
Nothing.
You
Exactly.
sat
It was just
there.
I could sit at home and do nothing. Why do I have to come here for this?
What are we supposed to do? Look at this? Is that what we're supposed to do? Just look at it?
Now, you know what I think confuses people on Instagram? It's your pictures, right? And on Pinterest, it's like pictures you're collecting from other places that
scrapbook.
aren't necessarily yours, right?
Yeah. When I joined 6 years ago, and all my pins are from 6 years ago, I don't think mood board was in the zeitgeist. I think
Lexicon.
that it is.
It
now.
still isn't here, but
bacon,
we're talking
guacamole,
mood
grilled
boards, guys.
cheese. Ooh.
Pinterest just emailed me. They were concerned that someone had actually signed into my account and they wanted to make sure everything's okay.
Is this you? You haven't been here in so long.
Like, did a pile of dust blow up when you?
10 card games for adults. That looks good. This is good. You know what?
Yeah, I mean, let's see.
I'm gonna spend some more time on Pinterest these days. I'm gonna put the Pinterest app on my phone.
What about the Mustang
Actually,
Pinterest?
Pinterest
I
is
bet
not
there
owned
is
by
one.
Facebook. I mean, that alone makes it attractive.
Yeah, for political reasons, I don't have Instagram, WhatsApp, or Facebook on my phone. I don't want that.
Yeah.
So maybe Pinterest. And if Microsoft bought them, I'd
could fill the hole.
Fill my hole in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad.
Yeah. So far, the rumor is the talks are off, but never say never. Right?
Never say never. Wait a minute. Somebody said 6 years ago there could be a clue to my Bitcoin wallet password in here. My God. All I want is this bacon guacamole grilled cheese sandwich. That's all I want. That'll kill you.
Boy.
That'll kill you fast.
For some reason, black garage doors are a thing. I don't know what that means.
We've gone down a Pinterest rat hole.
Yes. It's all the mood
all I know is I'm
boards.
redecorating my home, and thank you, Mary Jo, for introducing this topic.
You know,
I'm glad I could help.
Ask Stephanie. I bet she's on Pinterest.
Yeah.
I bet your daughter is on.
Yeah.
Like all my nieces are on Pinterest. They like that.
So Google and Ford, 6-year deal, not just for Android Automotive, but like they want to reinvent everything. Microsoft's getting into this, and actually, I think they got the better partner of the two. I mean, Ford's fine, but VW Group owns a lot of car stuff. They're big.
They got to be the number 2 car maker worldwide now?
I think so, yeah.
I think they were on track to be number 1, but then they had a little diesel problem that you probably didn't hear about.
Yeah.
They bought my wife's car back at full price, by the way, like 3 years later.
Did she have a diesel? Did she like have one of those
she had
blue,
one of those TDI things.
Yeah.
Yeah. She thought she was saving the planet. She was killing it. Anyway.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah. So
I'd be really pissed, actually. Yeah.
So, she was actually very upset.
Yeah.
Very upset.
Yeah.
I used to joke, I said, you thought you were saving the planet, but you were driving down the highway and all the trees were dying behind you. You didn't notice.
They're just coated with black soot,
Yeah. Yeah. Clean diesel, it turns out, is an oxymoron and a lie. But anyway.
But can I say something just, again, rat hole? It was part of their settlement. The Dieselgate settlement, VW is spending $1 billion building electrification stations all over the United States, electrify America.
Yep. Oh, and GM just announced they're going to be all electric.
Well, so is VW. In fact, they've got some really good, like the ID3 and 4.
Right.
Audi, their Audi group is doing, I mean, if I had enough money, I wouldn't have bought a Ford. I would have bought an Audi e-tron GT. That is a beautiful car.
So this story is interesting on 2 levels to me. There's the Microsoft angle, right? I mean, essentially, they're partnering with Volkswagen to do Volkswagen's car-based automation software on Azure, right? This is the point, right, from the Microsoft perspective. And that's whatever. That's fine. And you just bought a car, so you kind of appreciate this. And I think you're into cars as well, because I am certainly.
I'm a man. All men are
into
cars.
But there's been it's interesting watching the evolution of cars, because there was a several-year period there where personal technology was advancing really quickly, and car makers could not keep up. And, Android Auto and CarPlay kind of came out of this, and this was like a quick way for them to get into modern technology, and people can integrate their phones and blah, 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 whatever. But, what Volkswagen has sort of realized, and I bet a lot of these other companies have too, is they need to be more involved in this stuff. They can't just hand this major part of the car over to third parties. And so part of their deal with Microsoft is this, it's part of this broader investment in digitization, right? So they actually provided this figure. I was surprised they even said this. In-house software that's in a VW vehicle today is about 10% of what's in the car. And they want it to be 60% by 2025. And I think what they've kind of realized is because cars move more slowly than iPhones or whatever. So they were like, we got to partner with these guys and get this stuff in there. And of course, CarPlay and Android Auto aren't going away, obviously. But I think VW realized like we got to move quicker and have good software. Like this is a differentiator. People sit in a car and expect to see a modern environment, And I think that's part of this as well. And so this is how Microsoft can kind of play a role in cars, even though Windows Automotive is no longer a thing and Microsoft doesn't have that Ford Sync contract anymore. But this is the type of place where they can still play a role and help these companies, do better at something they should be doing better at, frankly. So it's kind of interesting on that note.
It's almost like it's a development platform, right? Like software development platform that they're working on, which is right in Microsoft's wheelhouse, right?
It's perfect. Exactly. Yeah. VW is, I almost said, is the Microsoft of the automotive world. I'm not sure that's true. I guess Windows Vista was a little bit like Dieselgate. I don't know.
No, this is a smart. I predict. You're going to see this all along. With Amazon will be the next one, and I don't know who.
For sure.
And of course, Apple has been, doing the Bachelor thing, going around saying you want a rose to everybody.
Everybody. There is no car maker on Earth. There's no car model on Earth at this point. I would say that doesn't have Apple, or at least as an option.
Yeah, but I mean, they're talking to Hyundai, Kia, Nissan.
Well, Amazon needs to get in there, not just for the back-end AWS stuff, which they need to be part of, but also just for Alexa, right? You want to have that as well, right. the talking bit,
Well, the cloud is a big part of the Google Ford thing. I'm sure the cloud will be a big part of the VW Microsoft thing. Mm-hmm. Who's the big cloud player? Amazon. I don't know where whose deal they're going to make a deal with somebody.
Well, the problem is they're competing with vehicle makers, right? So a lot of them are scared to do a deal with AWS
because of Rivian, or who are the
autonomous driving, and
autonomous
how Amazon's
vehicles,
trying to make their own.
But Google's Waymo didn't scare off Ford. In fact, I imagine Ford wants some of that technology.
Yeah, true. I feel like it works against Amazon, that this whole it's Amazon guys, because I think that's how their competitors sell it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's really interesting. It just shows how the world has changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
These car makers used to really just be metal benders. It wasn't. But now it's a tech.
Well, they're
platform.
like the internet providers. They don't want to just be dumb pipes.
Right.
But
I think I'm going to start a Pinterest board on that.
Next week, I want everyone, as a bit of homework, we're going to share our Pinterest boards. Mine will be products I bought on Pinterest.
Yeah. I'm looking, as I look through it, there's a lot of ads, but it's hard to see that they're ads.
But I know it's no, you know what? Instagram's like this too. It's ads for stuff I actually kind of do like.
Yeah.
Like I actually, it's
know what you want.
It's something I don't see on the web.
Right.
Like I'm like, I may want to sit around a fire outside using this $400 stove thing. It looks kind of cool, or whatever. I mean,
I think that's why I stopped Instagram. Really, I told people it's
I like the ads more than the photos.
But I bought so much crap at 4 a.m.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God!
How many wallets have you bought from Instagram or? What's the other
underwear?
thing?
I buy a lot of
underwear.
Instagram underwear. Cat toys.
So many cat toys.
Lisa always is buying cat toys on Instagram. Yeah. In fact, we have a thing now when, a package comes, she goes, Instagram purchase. And I go, oh, I can't wait to see this.
Yikes. Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Xbox News. Paul Thurrott has the story.
Yeah, and there's actually kind of a lot of news this week. A lot of which just happened today, in the past 24 hours. The big one is Microsoft announced an Xbox wireless headset. Because this is a big CAN type over-the-air deals. $99, which is approximately $300 less than the Surface headphones were when they debuted. Obviously, with the little mic deal, you can connect to 2 different devices at once. Microsoft literally called this out. I find this to be hilarious. You can be playing a game on an Xbox One Series or an Xbox Series X or S, and be dialed into a conference call at the same time on your phone. They literally promoted that as a use case for this thing. It's available for pre-order now. I think it's shipping middle of March, probably March 16th, something like that. They look pretty sweet. I don't like those kind of things personally, but it seems like the right price. It looks like a good product. I guess we'll see, but it looks pretty good. And then just before the show started, they announced a feature that is now available in Xbox Series X and S called FPS Boost. This is for backwards compatible titles. It is available initially, I think, on 5 specific games. And what it does is, this is part of that backward compatibility pledge that goes back to Xbox One. But on Xbox Series X and S specifically, the idea is you take this, whatever the game is, if it was an Xbox One game, an OG Xbox game, 360 game, whatever, you put it on an Xbox Series X or S, it's going to be better in some way, right? It's going to instant resume. It's going to, maybe the frame rate goes up, maybe the graphics are improved. And a lot of these improvements don't require the developer or the user to do anything. It just happens automatically. And so this falls into that category where you'll take a game that already exists, like, Far Cry 4. Maybe it was running at, 60 frames a second before on these consoles, and now it runs at 120. It doesn't require anything of the developer. It's just something that Microsoft can do. The fun part to this is there's another feature that's related to this called Auto HDR. This is where they add HDR effects to previous generation games that were, probably designed before HDR was even a thing. Both of these features will have a toggle in the game. What's the exact interface name? It's in the where is it? When you look at in the compatibility options section of the managed game interface, for each title, you'll be able to toggle FPS boost and or auto HDR on or off as you prefer. So I believe this. I think these first 5 games, this is available now, and obviously there are more coming soon. So that's that.
How do they do it? By interpolating frames? I mean, how do they boost FPS?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure. They're not real. I don't think they discuss how they do it. Obviously, there are more meaningful changes you can make to a game to make it play better on a new console, and that will require them to work with the developer. I think even something like this, they have to at least, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I suspect they have to get the okay from the developer for this to happen. Yeah. But why wouldn't someone who made a game for a previous generation console want it to run better now and potentially get more users? So
they say employs a variety of new methods for nearly doubling and in a few cases quadrupling the original frame rate on titles. Steadier frame rates are good, but they don't really say how. So that's interesting.
Yeah, they don't really say how, but
yeah. I guess
this is nothing
designed with lower performance hardware in mind. So maybe just
right. Well, it's like it's like you pushed in the turbo button on your PC.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just like that.
It just runs faster.
Just like that.
Yeah, it's the same technology.
Yeah,
it's alien technology, by the way. We don't really know how it works. One of the big question marks with the Xbox stuff, especially as last year kind of drew to a close, was why Microsoft didn't make xCloud available anywhere besides Android in 2020. It doesn't make any sense. Like, wouldn't it be on Windows first or the web or whatever? We know that Microsoft is testing this internally. We found out this past week that Microsoft has just expanded that testing, indicating it's probably going to become public at some point. xCloud itself is still technically in beta, right? It's a feature of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and it should be coming to Windows / the web soon. And we've seen some leaked screenshots what that's going to look like. Surprisingly, it looks exactly like you would expect.
You get the Blade interface and everything.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I can't play video I can't really play a console game on a screen that's as small as like a phone screen. It's just too small. All the text is really small. I need something like a tablet size, ideally a PC, screen.
Or
perfect.
I have a Galaxy Fold 2 that I'd be willing to let you have for a pretty good price.
Okay. I would not personally buy one of those, Leo, but and I certainly wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. But
I even got the control. Yeah, there's a GameSir makes a controller with a little expander. You put it on the edges there, plugs into the Type C.
I love the look of that.
It's and then you have the the screen, it's actually not a bad.
I think that, that screen is maybe, for me, I'm like over 50, so you got to understand the eyes already disappeared. But I feel like that's maybe the minimum size.
It's about right. I mean,
yeah.
You hold it, you might be playing like this close to the screen.
I know. Yeah, and with cheater glasses on, you know.
What is you doing there?
What's the old guy doing over there? He's playing Halo. You know.
So that's Android. So I'll be able to do this already, right? xCloud. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, you can already do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
yeah, but we want it on Windows. We want it on the web. And of course, once it comes to the web, it can go anywhere, including iOS and iPad.
I want it on the iPad, yeah. And that'll be through Safari, which is an interesting technical story.
Twice a month, Microsoft announces new games for Xbox Game Pass. They just made that announcement. I don't see anything huge here exactly for the second half of the month. Elite Dangerous, maybe. Dirt 5 actually is a really good game. It's a race, like a racing game. There's also, we don't really talk about this as much, but when you talk about playing Xbox Game Pass cloud gaming games, right, on mobile, like today only on Android, typically what you're doing is almost always using an Xbox controller with it somehow. So you could be connected over Bluetooth. You could physically connect them with a clip or whatever, where the phone is over the controller and you're doing it that way. Yeah. But they're also adding touch controls to certain games. I think, I shouldn't say this, but I think that requires them to work with the developer. That might not even be correct, but I think they have to work with the developer on that. So there are several games where you can just play it right on the phone, right? And so if you were younger than I am, like my son or something, I'm sure that's perfectly acceptable. And starting tomorrow, there are, it looks like 7 or 8 more games that are adding touch controls, meaning you can play them right on the phone. So that kind of thing is advancing as well. I mean, I think overall the platform just gets more and more interesting as they, make those changes. But looking at the list, I'm like, yeah, I don't really care about any of those particular games. And then Flight Simulator was released this past fall, and then Microsoft has been putting out what they call world updates. So there have been 2 so far until this past week. I think the first one was for Japan, and the second one was for the United States. And what it does is it just adds dramatically better visuals, especially for famous places or places you might want to fly by and so forth. And these are free, of course. And it's one of the nice things Microsoft does with its own games is release all these free updates. And they're going to do this for the foreseeable future for Flight Simulator. This week, they released their 3rd such update for the UK and Ireland. I saw one headline that referred to it as the 3rd world update.
Whoops.
And I'm like, I guess UK,
after
technically
Brexit,
with Brexit,
maybe?
might be technically a 3rd world country at this point. Anyway, World Update 3, I guess we'll call it. So dramatically better visuals around the UK and Ireland, London, of course, and various famous places. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So could I actually fly into the London Eye if I wanted to? Or do they prevent you from doing that?
I'm sure do they prevent you? No, I'm sure you could. Are you asking me if this is like a terrorist training tool now?
Well, no.
I assume you could.
Yeah. It seems vulnerable. I'm just saying.
It does seem vulnerable, yes.
I've been on it. It's
true.
a great ride. I mean, it's an amazing ride. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love those. Xbox news done. Back of the book is next. And let's kick off the back of the book with, I call it the back of the book. I should explain that. Every 3 years I should explain that. There used to be these things called magazines, and you'd have the big glossy feature stories written by Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley in the front, and then in the back you'd have all these little, quarter-inch
Dvorak. That thing he did at the back there.
Yeah. Well, he was the last page on Macworld, I think. Yeah, and InfoWorld too. Mm-hmm. But there's always I always like the stuff in the back, the tidbits, the fun stuff, and so that's why I call this the back of our book.
In the notes, we refer to this as tips and picks.
Tips and picks with Paul.
But you say back of the book, and I literally have never questioned it. I've never even thought. But
you know what I'm talking about.
Of course, it is the back of the book.
Yeah, it's where Dvorak's inside track lives.
That's right. That's right. When I first started doing short takes, I wanted to emulate the way he wrote it because he would write paragraphs of text, and he would bold parts of them. Remember?
Yeah, randomly.
And I thought that was neat. And the first time I sent it in, my editor was like, "Yeah, we're not doing this."
As I remember, the bolding was pretty much random. Like I should have asked John this because I don't know.
Yeah. I hope it was random. That would make it actually more attractive to me. Because people would be like, "Why was he highlighting that?"
I'm it doesn't seem. This up.
Yeah, I always like the style of it. Personally.
You are going to kick it off with tips and tricks, as you say.
Yeah, so I have a tips and tricks. So the trick is I have an app pick and a tip, and they're related. So the tip was influenced, or I'll say inspired, by the pick. So I'm actually going to do them in reverse order so I can explain it a little bit better.
Okay.
This week, LastPass, which of course is probably the preeminent password manager.
And a long-time advertiser, although not currently, but a long-time advertiser. Yeah.
But they announced that they were changing how their free version works. And what they're going to do now going forward is you can, if you don't pay for the service, you can have your password synced to only one type of device, a computer or a mobile device. And it can be any number of those devices. And you can switch the type of device a couple of times, and then you can not switch after that. And of course, you hear this, and of course there's like this firestorm of controversy and people complaining and, screw, I'm going to adopt this other thing. And but I look at this very much like what happened last year with Sonos, which is I completely understand why they're doing what they're doing. They might have landed it a little wrong. Like maybe the better way to do this is to say, well, look, if you're going to be free, you're not paying us anything, right? Maybe you could only sync to 2 or 3 devices, and it doesn't matter how what types of devices they are. And I'm sure the reason they didn't do that was because most people would say, fine, I'll sync it to one computer and one phone, and I'll be fine. And what they really wanted was, of course, what they want is people to pay for this. So here's the thing. You should pay for this. This is a good service. And LastPass Premium, which offers all kinds of additional functionality beside password sync, is not expensive. It's especially not expensive right now because they're offering like an incredible upgrade deal where it's like, I think it's like $2 a month if you pay for the year or something like that. It's, I'm a little freaked out by how entitled people are to get things for free on the internet, And it's kind of like the dark side of the cool stuff about the internet, which is that you get all this free stuff on the internet, right? I mean, but we all, the three of us we're content creators. But you could be a developer of some kind of software or service or whatever. I mean, obviously there's some balance between like stuff that you give away and stuff that you get paid for directly. LastPass does not benefit from they can't have an advertising model, of course. So, they have to strike their own balance, and we can debate where they landed. I
don't think $36 a year is outrageous.
I don't, and that's the thing. So, of course,
it's interesting because I get were there a lot of people on the free tier. I mean, what LastPass says is it was costing us a lot lot of money to support the free tier, so they aren't eliminating it, but they're cutting it back.
It's amazing how quickly people turn on things that they love. Like like loyal LastPass customers.
$3 for an app.
I know, it's crazy.
Like you see people go like it's $3. I'm like, it's $3,
right?
I have to think there's some sort of pent up hostility that this just was the last straw. Because otherwise, it's not.
My comments. The comments on my site about this article are unbelievable. Like they're unbelievable. Well, except they're very believable. This is a money grab.
Well, yeah,
it's a business. It's not a charity, idiot. Like what? Anyway, look. And by the way, I don't want to. I also want to be cognizant of the fact that there are people who can't afford to pay all these micropayments every month.
There are free password,
and that's the thing. That's right. And by the way, if you can't afford it, all of the platform makers make password management part of the platform.
Right.
Google, Apple, and Microsoft all offer this. So if you're like a Microsoft guy listening to this, use an Android device maybe or an iPhone, it doesn't matter. Use Microsoft Edge on desktop, whether it's Windows or the Mac, it doesn't matter. You can sync your passwords between all of those things through Edge.
Yeah.
It can take over the password management on your phone, not just for the web browser, I mean for apps. So the free solutions exist.
Right.
you should take the time to look at what LastPass offers and LastPass Premium, because like I said, there's more. And there are people who have more needs too. There's password sharing, maybe in a family or something like that.
That's why, I mean, we're dependent on that, you know?
Yeah. So, just look at it. I'm a little freaked out by the outrage over this kind of thing. Just like a year ago, this very month, I was freaked out by the reaction to Sonos.
The internet is made for outrage, particularly Twitter. And I think a lot of this is Twitter outrage. Yeah. Twitter and
comments.
Blog
I would say the comments on any blog post or same thing.
They're all filled with outrage. Yeah.
It's all. And this, by the way, this is like one of the first things I do every day. It is the worst way to start the morning. I'm already in a bad mood. I didn't sleep very well. I go to the comments and I'm like, oh, come on. Like, what is wrong with you people? So here's the tip here, such as it is
don't read the comments.
Don't read the comments. Yeah, exactly. Don't even have comments.
Yeah.
Look, for password management, like I said, there are free solutions. So those are out there. But I think when you think about the things that you pay for, you should pay for the things that matter to you the most, You should support people that make content that you like. You should support companies that make products or services that you like. I don't understand being outraged that some company in this case or some person has gone to the time and effort to create something that you find to be valuable and yet are unwilling to pay a cent for it. I mean, it's...
Well, if you want to be outraged that we have to even do this. Passwords are outrageous.
Right.
And the fact that we have to use some sort of software to manage this crazy ass. I was looking at my LastPass. I have more than 1,000 passwords in there.
Wow.
And for whatever it's worth, this is okay. Now you're going to get me off on a side topic because this is something I find to be incredible. Microsoft has been working on this passwordless world or passwordless initiative for years now. And if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem and you use the Microsoft password management stuff I just described, you know that you can log into a computer, you can log into your phone, you can log into apps and whatever, services. Never have to type in your password, right? Two-step authentication. You put in your email address, you get a notification on your phone, you OK it, you thumbprint it, whatever you do. No password. You never have to remember a password ever again. For some reason, on every other platform, you still have to type in your password from time to time, or the PIN or whatever it is to get into your phone. I see this on iPhones. I see it on my iPad. I see it on my Android phone that I use every day. Every once in a while, I pick the thing up. I do the thumbprint. It says, oh, extra security. You got to type in your PIN. Why? Windows never asks me to do that ever. Sometimes I might have to re-authenticate against my authenticator, whatever that might be, in my authenticator app in my case. But I never have to type in my password ever. Not once, not in the beginning, and not later. But on these other platforms, for some reason, sometimes you do. And why is that extra security? The thumbprint is better security than my password.
Yeah.
Or
in case somebody stole your thumb?
Face ID. Well, they could steal my computer. I know. I don't get it. Anyway, but that's not the point. You just reminded me of that little pet peeve. But
we got to do something about passwords, though. I mean, this is just not a good environment.
Yeah, the perfect world is we don't have to worry about this.
Bill Gates said years ago, passwords, we're going to get rid of those. I do like
Billy
the
Boy
authenticator.
said a lot of things, Leo.
I do like it that the Microsoft Authenticator, when I log into Office, will pop up on my phone, and I say the number. It's 50. It matches. I feel like that's very secure, and it's a lot easier than having to do a password. Problem is, most sites, most apps still require a plain old password.
Yeah, but but that's why you need the password manager, right? So if you're using the Microsoft Password Manager, you benefit from that thing you just described with those sites and those services, right? Because you're passing it through.
Yeah. All right.
LastPass.
LastPass. App of the week, tip of the week. Pay for it. Pay for something.
God, $22. Seriously, for the year. Come on. Or whatever the number is.
I think it's $3 a month now.
30.
So it's
30.
Well, it's on sale right now because of what they just announced, right? So, and then by the way, second level of complaint I got yesterday. This is amazing. So LastPass announced this. So some people were like, okay, I guess I'll upgrade. And then they couldn't because so many people were hammering the servers. It wasn't working correctly. Now they're like, oh, they can't even handle payments now, and it's like, guys, you have until May or whatever. Like, just give it a second. Like, Jesus, it's like dealing with the outrage is like is the hardest part for me. I don't know. And imagine what it would be like to be at LastPass today, right?
Oh God,
those guys must be in bunker mode. You know?
Oh God, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my God, we actually asked people to pay for our service.
And they're flipping out.
Anyway,
I sent him a condolence card. I hope that.
You should. That's good. I should have seen this one coming. I wish I had written something in my article. Like, I don't want to hear any complaints. Just if you don't want to use it. It's like, I'm switching to some other service. It's like, all these guys have paid tiers too. You know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
How about, Mary Jo Foley, how about a developer pick of the week? We haven't done one of those.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that great?
Wow.
I know. I'm biting off a big chunk here with this one. So my pick is Dapr 1.0, DAPR. DAPR stands for Distributed Application Runtime, Dapr. Today, it hit the 1.0 milestone. If you're going to ask me to explain Dapr, I'm going to tell you I cannot.
Mary Jo, could you explain Dapr briefly?
So I have a funny story about Dapr, and also I'll tell you how Microsoft describes it first. So Dapr is meant to address a challenge in modern distributed applications, complexity. And then it's so complex that they have an entire ebook to explain what Dapr is for .NET developers. So if you want to see the ebook, go to docs.microsoft.com and search for Dapr for .NET developers. And you too can get the free ebook, which is many pages.
Wow.
So in a nutshell, Dapr is all about microservices. It's an architecture of pluggable components. It's open source. It's supposed to give you a set of components that you as a developer can use and not have to build yourself when you're trying to build the underlying infrastructure in cloud native applications. Okay, that's as much of it as I understand. My funny story is one time I asked Mark Russinovich, the chief technology officer of of Azure, I asked him something about Dapr. And he started it out by saying, Mary Jo, you know when you're using the actor model to program? And I'm like, no, I don't actually know because I'm a journalist. I'm not a developer. And he's like, no, you know the actor model. You know how that works and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I don't, Mark. I'm sorry. I don't know it. And the PR person's like, Mark, I don't think she knows what that is. And he goes, Mary Jo knows what the actor model is. I'm like, I don't know what it is. And so after that, we realized that I probably couldn't understand Dapr more than at a very, very high 20,000 foot surface level. But if you are somebody who can understand it and you want to delve more into it, know that it is out, generally available in 1.0 release today. And it's a project that Mark Russinovich and his team are very, very excited about.
That's all
and
I
if
need
you're
to hear.
a cloud developer, go check it out. It's on GitHub because it's open source. There you go.
Hey, Dapper Dan.
How come it's not called Dapr.net?
Dapr.net.
Don't ask me any more questions about Dapr.
Always.
I'm Dapr free here.
With a smile. And the code name of the week, Mary Jo.
Right. Since I didn't pick something complex enough for the pick of the week, I'm going to also give you something very complex for the code name of the week. This has to do with Kubernetes. Enough said, right? So my codename pick is Atlas. And I found this accidentally. I wasn't even looking for this, but somehow in doing searches around the web, I found out that there's an effort inside of Microsoft around their serverless container platform called Atlas. Atlas is meant to be the next generation of serverless container technology in Azure. So I'm guessing maybe we'll hear about it at Ignite, which is in a couple weeks. I don't know. But here's how Microsoft describes this one. Atlas is Azure's shared serverless container platform for supporting hostile multi-tenant container workloads. Hostile? I'm like,
wow.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't want any hostile workloads on my system.
I know. So I'm guessing maybe it has to do with government security kinds of things. I'm just making a guess there. But what is more interesting to me is Microsoft's building a whole set of fundamental what they call building blocks in their cloud network, like so that you can have things like compute and service fabric and storage and all these things as discrete components that people can kind of pick and choose from and build with. I believe this Atlas effort is another one of these building blocks, this serverless container platform. So I don't know any more about it at this point than that, but I think it's something we should all keep an ear out for. I don't know if they'll use the codename Atlas when they talk about it, but it sounds like there's something new coming from them with serverless containers.
All right, I'm ready for some beer, and I like the name of this one.
This better be lobster flavored.
It is not.
Given the name, you're right. I think it ought to be. What is the beer?
Okay, the beer company is Maine Brewing. Maine Brewing is one of the most famous craft breweries on the East Coast. And the reason I picked this beer, which is called Second Dinner, is to bring up the whole topic of whales in craft beer. Whales are beers that are super hard to get and that everybody wants. So an example of a whale is Heady Topper, if you've ever heard of that beer from The Alchemist. It's one of these things that people never could get a hold of. You had to go to the brewery to get it. It was really hard to get. Maine makes a bunch of these beers. They make a beer called Lunch. They make a beer called Dinner. Those are both whales. And now they have a beer called Second Dinner, which is yet another double IPA. But what's interesting about this beer is there's nothing over the top about it. It doesn't have marshmallows in it. It doesn't have lactose or strawberries or anything weird. It's just like a super solidly made beer. It has like the citrus elements you'd expect in a double IPA, but also the perfect balance of malt as well. So it's not over the top hoppy. It's not over the top malty. It's just perfect. The problem with beers like this, you can almost never get them outside of the brewery. Very, very hard to get. But the other day, my local beer store advertised that they had it on tap. And if you can't, you had to run down there. You had to drink it outside and it wasn't that cold. It was 30 degrees outside. You had to sit outside and drink it. Of course I did, because it's a whale and I wanted it, and it was delicious. So every big craft brewery typically has something that's hard to get, but there's only a few beers that are considered whales, and Second Dinner from Maine is one of them.
Looks really, I love. So this is a big bottle. This is not. This is one of those. Share
so
this
I had
with
it
a
on
friend.
tap.
Oh,
I had it on draft, which is even harder to get.
That's amazing.
But yeah, they make some beers in like slightly larger format bottles, not single serving, like a serving and a half. That's probably what this one is.
So I have to confess, double IPA, I'm thinking that's like a lot of beers. That's just another beer.
It's funny how it's become that way.
Yeah.
I know.
Because double IPA
used to be
several years ago was
hard to get,
unusual
right?
and exotic.
Well, we're right next to Lagunitas, so there's
exactly.
lots of. So I've really been interested in your dark beer picks and so forth, and this, but this is worth it. But you do want to drink it fresh. That's the problem. I don't know if I'll be able to.
That's the problem. You can't even take it out of the places that have it on tap. Wow. The rule is you have to drink it right there. You can't even bring it home and drink it.
I think this merits a trip to Freeport, Maine.
I think it does.
Get a lobster dinner, or maybe at least a lobster roll.
Wouldn't go right now, Leo.
Yes, I'm ready.
Wait.
I'm ready. Oh man, I'll drive there in my hot new vehicle.
Oh yeah, you get the car for it.
I'll have to charge every 5 minutes, but
we're going to get up to a foot of snow over the next 24 hours for both of us.
Oh, that's exciting.
We are.
Another big snowstorm?
I would say May, maybe. Wow. June.
Yeah, Maine is pretty chilly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but I could use a lobster roll.
I know.
And I bet this would be
so
delicious with a lobster roll.
I'm sure.
You can tell you're in New England when you go to McDonald's in the summer and get a lobster roll there.
Oh my God. What I really want is a clam cake. I bet this would be good with a clam cake.
Oh.
That's a Rhode Island thing, clam cakes.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
go to summershack.com. You can get a clam cake delivered to your house.
That like Second Dinner double IPA, you really don't want to take a clam cake out of the clam shack. They don't age well.
Well, I mean, they can be frozen.
You want it nice and hot out of the fryer. My dad used to come home with brown paper bags, and you knew there were clam cakes inside because it was grease all over. It was. That's the good stuff. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, you've done it again. We've come to the end of this fabulous episode of Windows Weekly. We did it all, folks. Everything.
We went down a lot of rabbit holes on this one.
This was
we really did.
Extra lengthy episode, but I had fun doing it. You'll find Paul Thurrott at thurrott.com. That's his blog. Be a premium member like the cool kids. You'll also find his Pinterest mood board at Thurrott on Pinterest.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing. I'm going to make a mood board just for you. My Windows Weekly mood board.
There you go.
Oh my God! I'm sorry to interrupt. I assumed.
You thought I was joking.
If you went to Pinterest.com/Thurrott,
yeah,
you would find nothing because I have obviously not added anything to it. But that's been taken by someone named Phyllis Thurrott.
Oh, Phyllis! Hi, Phyllis. She's a fan.
She only has 22 followers, guys. So
let's help her. Everybody follow Phyllis.
Let's give her a push.
I don't know what happened. I just got 5,000 followers on Pinterest.
All these geeks are following me.
What's going on? They're all looking for
some
Windows
recipes.
tips.
I'm just saying. I'm at P Thurrott. That's why I have
P Thurrott. Okay.
I have not saved any pins.
Well, get going.
Well, you get time.
He's also got a book you might have heard of, The Field Guide to Windows 10. Yes. See. Little marketing. You find that at leanpub.com and pinterest.com at Pete Thurrott. Mary Jo Foley, she's at allaboutmicrosoft.com, her ZDNet blog. Are you on Pinterest? Of course you are.
Nope.
I
am not.
Well, we just have to.
Too many social networks. Can't do it.
He asked the question wrong, Mary Jo. Are you on Pinterest yet?
No.
You will be.
Not yet. And no, guys, no. I can't do another.
We do Windows Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. I'm sorry, Wednesday. Forget the Tuesday. I'm just erase that. Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live at twit.tv/live. If you're doing that, chat with us live at irc.twit.tv. On-demand versions of the show are at twit.tv/WW. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Windows Weekly, and you can also find us in your favorite podcatcher. If you subscribe there, you'll never have to worry about it. You'll just get a copy of it the minute it's available, audio or video. That's it for this edition of Windows Weekly. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Stay safe in the snow. You're gonna get a foot in New York too?
They said maybe. Yep. Wow. I know.
This will be the second.
It's good because I feel like we haven't gotten enough snow yet this year. It'll be nice.
Yeah. I mean, the city has just been inundated with snow.
I know. Crazy. I think it's the snowiest year in New York in a long time, I would bet.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
16 inches in Central Park last time. That's pretty. That
was a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty hefty. Well, stay safe. All right. I know you're not going out. You're not. What are they going to do?
I'm sending my wife out. I'm not going anywhere.
That's right. Stay home. We will see you next week on Windows Weekly. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
Hey, folks. I'm Matt Pruitt, host of Hands of Photography here on Twit TV. I know some of you have gotten yourself a brand new camera, or you just had a camera sitting around and can't quite figure out how to get the most out of it. Well, I have a solution. My show, Hands on Photography. So subscribe right now to learn how to get the most out of that camera. I'm going to show you how to make those images pop. I don't care if it's a Canon camera. I don't care if it's a Sony, Nikon, iPhone, Android, even an inexpensive Android device. I got you covered. So head on over to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.